Hello and welcome to the SnuggleBear podcast. I know it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a few.
Oh well, we're right back in the swing of things. We're gonna do a very special episode, just one very long 3-hour episode with about a break every hour or so.
Yep, booty, booty,
Rocking everywhere.
This is how it begins.
It begins.
Anyways, the current topic right now is a discussion about an indie game that I found and recently beat called The Fall.
The Fall, huh?
Yes, it's about an operating system on a battlesuit that's trying to save its operator. But because I'm confident that you're not going to play this game, just because it's a point-and-click adventure anyway.
I do point-and-click stuff. I can.
Oh, okay. It's just this one has a $10 entrance fee.
Actually, I might talk to David about point-and-click games and stuff because David wants to form a Let's Play channel from the one that I already have. He wanted to change it to Nihilus New Media, and Data wants Data. Oh yeah, Data. David wants to be our Flash games guy, so he might actually play that if I tell him.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not a Flash game.
Well, point-and-click adventure, it's kind of like that, but kind of not.
Oh, okay. Well,
but it can fall under that category, depending upon your specifics.
All right. Well, the whole goal of the game is to save your pilot. So you end up having to solve all of these puzzles by doing some rather questionable things that disobey your direct objectives. Never lie, never kill, and always protect your operator. Those are the three objectives that the operating system has to follow.
Wow. And
it turns out that this planet, that Arid, we're just going to call her Arid, it's A-R-I-D, but fuck it.
Uh-huh.
Arid lands on this planet, which is a decommissioning facility, specifically designed to destroy malfunctioning robots. And right off the bat, as she puts herself and her pilot in danger to unlock an ability to proceed forward, you can kind of tell something is up. Anyway, she continues forward and finds a very similar AI to herself that is actually the administrator of the facility. It does its very best to help her out, and it actually sounds more human than even I would. Eventually, things take a turn for the worst, and she runs into this robot that is taking any robot or person that it deems to be faulty and then stringing them up on crosses.
Eesh.
Yes. It's rather disturbing. Well, to an extent. At the very end of the game, I'm just going to skip right to the end. It's horrible because that AI that she was talking to gets formatted into its original state. She kills the bad robot, gets up to the surface to finally get the medical facilities for her pilot. But as it scanned for any human presence, it couldn't find any. She didn't have a pilot.
Wow.
This completely tore her apart. She could not function anymore, and her body, except for her head, was dragged off to be recycled.
Jeez.
But she displayed throughout the game a love for her pilot, Joseph's. She often overwrote her own programming to protect him, even though he didn't exist.
Wow.
And it took a realization that she was malfunctioning to be able to get to that final stretch, but she found out it was all for nothing. All of it for nothing.
Wow.
That game made me cry a little bit. In fact, the moment I finished it, I ran to Google and tried my very best to find a sequel to the game because I left it on a cliffhanger. I want to know what happens next very badly.
Yeah. Actually, I actually have a similar feeling to like wanting a sequel to a game. That game you played in one of our last SnuggleBear podcasts, Exoptable Money, I learned more about the lore behind that story, and it interests me like a lot.
It is fairly interesting, but the characters involved are rather brutal, don't you think?
The characters involved are rather brutal, but I like the fact that it's a game that really makes you think. It's intelligent in its own right, even though all it is most of the time is you being trapped in a room with one distinctive objective, constantly getting these letters at light speeds that are incomprehensible for like people to be able to send letters that fast.
And there's no one even delivering the letters.
Exactly. It kind of tells me, like, what if all the stuff in Exoptable Money and Presentable Liberty is insanity or something? It's interesting.
It is interesting. Those two games, Exoptable Money and Presentable Liberty, both show what greed does to the world.
Yeah.
What
and it's
Dr.
so
Money does.
Interesting. Like, it actually shows one man consumed by greed can kill all of mankind.
Yes, it's actually a very illegal money-making tactic, the perfect money-making tactic, actually. The unfortunate thing about it is, if you create a virus and a cure, and you release the virus but sell the cure at any price you want, you can make as much money as you want, because in order to survive, they have to buy your cure.
But there's an ultimate realization I came to in Exoptable Money.
And what's that?
Dr. Greed, Dr. Money, whatever you want to call him. I call him Dr. Greed.
Well, his name is Dr. Money. That's why
his name is Dr. Money, but I like to call him Dr. Greed because he goes a bit further than like just money. It seems like he's literally this guy to an extent that wants to have sex with money, if anything, because he's just so freaking insane, and you discover just how insane Dr. Money is.
Oh, that's right. I keep yelling at Republicans on the news whenever I actually hear the news in the car, because I stopped watching cable because it made me even more depressed than I usually am.
Yeah.
And every time I yell, I hope you jack off with your money and die from the paper cuts.
I wonder, is Dr. Money a Republican? No. He doesn't have a political standing. He just wants money.
That's it. He even blackmails a guy with a money machine by infecting him with a virus.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then stealing all of his money at the end.
But
just so that he can eat
it's
a can
the
of
sad
beans.
thing. It's the sad thing. You actually do find that Dr. Money is extremely pathetic. Like, you actually want to feel sorry for the guy, because he's failing to realize that once he's got all the money in the world, there's going to be no purpose for it, because everyone is going to be dead because of him.
Well,
then how's
honestly,
he going to feel?
He doesn't care. At the end of Presentable Liberty, which comes after Exoptable Money, or at least it's at the same time as Exoptable Money, Dr. Money and the protagonist of Presentable Liberty are the only ones who survive.
The only two people alive in the world. That's why I want there to be a third game. I actually want vengeance to be written out against that greedy man or something.
Yes, the guy who created the story is a genius in my mind.
Yeah,
presenting all the story in these little bits of information.
Honestly, I establish one thing about Presentable Liberty. It tells you a lot more than Exoptable Money does. And I believe Exoptable Money was the first game.
It was.
But I love Presentable Liberty because for some reason it horrifies you just to be isolated in that room and suddenly realize there is an unspeakable hell going on outside that cell. And yet, you actually want to leave the cell to that unspeakable hell because the real hell is being trapped inside, not knowing what's going on out there.
Being trapped inside with your own thoughts is the only news of the world you get is from letters which may or may not even be real.
Exactly. And it's so freaking horrifying as you dive deeper into it. I mean, like, I actually wanted Charlotte to live and stuff. I wanted, like, the protagonist to meet Charlotte. I wanted...
She killed herself because your character wouldn't reply.
I know. And
Same with the first game.
And it was like, it also helped me realize whatever Dr. Money did, it caused people to fall from sanity. Because any sane person would have realized this guy's in a prison. He can't respond to letters. He can only read them. They
never noticed that. I think only one of the guys sending you letters actually knows you're in a prison.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the only reason you escape is because that guy kills himself frying the generator.
Yeah, Salvador. I felt so sorry because surprisingly, even though the story began monotone, for some reason it began light because Salvador was starting on an adventure and it felt more like you, the protagonist, were not even a body. Like you were imagining the adventures these individuals were having. This ultimate antagonist, this great hero, this like innocent mind.
An explorer.
And you suddenly just watch it all self-destruct and you're powerless to do anything about it. It's something I love so much about it because it really does dive into the human psyche and make people think, except for those who can't feel.
Now, those are psychopaths. If you've ever seen American Psycho, that movie actually covers the concept pretty well.
And that's another thing. Have you noticed how everything that happens, the character doesn't really respond because ultimately the character is you. The character thinks whatever you want to think.
And you're the one playing the game, and because the game doesn't let you type or it doesn't give you any way to respond to these characters, you're helpless.
It's because the main character is... Like, the thing about that game, the protagonist is you. You don't need a face, you don't need an appearance, you don't need a look. You just know it's you against the world. There are people you're trying to save, there are people you're trying to help, and ultimately you want to feel like the protagonist because the protagonist has the power to change. And ultimately, the protagonist in this series only has the power to change themselves. And when they do, it's always too late.
Unfortunately.
But it shows...
You want to move on to the next topic?
I know. I just enjoy that game series so much, and I want there to be a third one. Because, as we all know, it's now you and Dr. Money, and there's no one else left in the world. Why not finish what Dr. Money started?
Hell, you could actually probably infinitely extend upon the concept of the number of people Dr. Money is sending letters to.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can see, as Dr. Money's destroying the world, what perspective could it be from, say, another place?
There are so many different concepts. Like, Exoptible Money is a series all revolving around greed. Exoptible Money revolves around greed. Presentable Liberty revolves around isolation. But there are so many different forms of, like, human pain that this series can tap into and exploit and just make people feel, even though it's not a very high-quality game or anything, it teaches you that these games don't have to be much. They just have to have the right thought concept.
Have you ever thought why there are so many words for negative emotions and pain, and there are so few for positive emotions and happiness?
Because I think the world mostly exists in its own turmoil.
It's because we have more reasons to feel pain, but we have fewer reasons to be happy about it.
I just that series made me really reflect upon that. And for some reason, I wanted to continue in that story because it was just such an amazing adventure. I mean, yes, you as the protagonist was powerless, but ultimately your goal as the protagonist was just to learn the lesson of the story. Because it wasn't your story. Dr. Money's the one that controls everything. Dr. Money's the one that decides who lives and dies. Though you're the protagonist, the antagonist suddenly has more power.
Suddenly you're not the judge of life anymore.
Exactly.
Such as you are in an FPS game.
Yeah, in any other game, the protagonist is always the judge of life or death, that righteous fury, or that ultimate evil that will either begin anew or end everything, and that's an infinite cycle.
All right. Well, we should move on to another topic before we derail completely, because we have 13 more of these.
Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. It's okay to derail it a little. All right. So the random number generator has selected topic number 5, which I wrote down as something that I found aggravating and stupid. Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin came out 3 days ago. And it's essentially paying for a patch that should have been in the game originally, and it doesn't actually solve any of the original issues.
Ha!
Yeah. And it turns out that the game's durability system was based on your FPS rather than impacts.
Seriously?
Everything in the game was based off FPS instead of actual fucking code.
That is dumb.
So yes, if your FPS is below 60 or above 60, you're going to take less or more damage to your weapon depending on that.
Yeah. We've got, like, problems like dragons looking like they farted on people and they want to worry about FPS. Yay.
Yeah, they're so worried about syncing it up to FPS rather than actual coding that everything depends on it. Which is why the fucking hitboxes suck so goddamn much.
Maybe the point of Dark Souls 2 is that you don't take it seriously.
I don't think there
know.
is a point to Dark Souls 2. It's just to get money out of us.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not going to buy the patch. I've had enough misery with the original game. It took me a long time to recognize all the bullshit. I just wanted to complete it originally because I had it.
You could also argue that the first Dark Souls kind of had the similar goal.
No, it didn't. The first Dark Souls, the only goal it had was to tell a story. But not necessarily in the way you would normally know as to tell a story.
But it made a lot of money now, didn't it?
It did make a lot of money, but that's because it was difficult and popular.
Yeah. Ultimately, a studio can decide that a game be made over and over and over and over and over again, but it's ultimately the designer's decision to decide whether they want to remain true to what dawned the idea or abandon it altogether and forsake it for greed and natural want, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot in Dark Souls 2 that's completely broken, and I don't know what they were thinking. If you were to go back to the E3 footage for when Dark Souls was originally announced, you would be a little bit more pissed off than you probably are at the moment.
You want to know my theory?
What?
YouTube bait.
YouTube bait. Fuck those guys.
Uh-huh.
Have I already mentioned how much I want to skullfuck Yui? Yui's the creative director for Dark Souls 2, whereas Miyamoto is for Dark Souls 1.
You have said how much you want to skullfuck a lot of people, but this is actually the first time you brought up Yui to me.
Okay. Well, Yui, I don't know his last name, or if that is his last name, but Yui, his idea of difficult is adding more enemies and then syncing up everything to the fucking FPS, so if you dodge, it doesn't count. If you dodge and the FPS doesn't fucking match up,
You're fucked.
you'd have to have a completely perfect computer, which is impossible, in order to run the game to where it's completely fair.
That's like one hell of a way to think about it.
I'm recording. Thank you. Okay. I just got a fun shirt from my brother. Huh.
Yay, shirt.
It's a tie-dye shirt. Snowy Range, Centennial, Wyoming. Friendly store and motel. Cool.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like
he's-
tie-dye shirts.
Yeah, I've never had a tie-dye shirt. It's really nice.
Tie-dye shirts are nice. I've actually worked in my art class, the tie-dye shop. It's very nice. Tie-dye shirts are just good.
Absolutely. They're very colorful. They draw your eye right to the center. And I think my brother got this shirt because he was working community service for a place in town called the Clothing Cottage.
This might be like a small percentage, perhaps an exaggeration, but I've always thought tie-dye shirts are 1% of everything that's right with the world. Tie-dye shirts are just nice.
Okay. Well, do you want to move on to the next topic?
I don't know a lot of people that don't like tie-dye shirts. They're just appealing to a lot of people.
My favorite kind of tie-dye shirt is one that has a little less color, but it's surrounded by whiteness.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if it's a red and white tie-dye shirt, then it's you're wearing raspberry sherbet.
Yay! That sounds
to me is
awesome.
I know it does. It's just
I love
fantastic.
sherbet in general. I want to go and buy a bucket of sherbet eventually. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be delicious. So, should we move on to another topic, or should we talk about tie-dye shirts a bit?
Yeah. I think we've talked about tie-dye shirts to the extent we need to.
Oh, okay, because I could actually tell you how to make them.
Yeah.
You want to know that?
That would be interesting. I want to know how to make them at home. I know the mixture and stuff, but I don't know how to make the mixture.
Okay, so you take any random object that you can tightly wrap the shirt around many, many times until it's so tight that you can't possibly remove it. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but so tight that it won't come apart easily.
Yeah,
I
know that.
And then you dip it into the dyes.
Yeah.
And when it dries and you unwrap it, it'll be a tie-dye shirt.
Do you just use any old dyes, or?
Well, you have to use a dye that will permanently change the color of the cotton, or whatever material the shirt happens to be.
So basically just use any kind of dye that is opposite the color of the shirt.
Yes. A few traditional shirts I saw in a documentary, they wrapped the shirts tightly around a cigarette box and a beer bottle. Huh. And they just came out with these beautiful shirts.
Mm-hmm.
They turned the trash that was lying around their island and just made it into something beautiful.
This is why I think this is the 1% of everything that's right with the world.
Yeah. So you want to move on to the next topic?
Yes.
Okay. Topic number 7. Roleplay and writing roleplay in relation to writing development for fiction and video formats. Essentially, this is the importance of role-playing with a friend or whatever to develop your writing skills in order to improve your storytelling abilities, such as for videos and books.
I know a lot about role-playing because a lot of kids don't realize it, but every time they pretend or imagine in their backyard or fight with plastic swords and stuff like that, in a sense, if they make up a story, they're pretty much role-playing. Role-play is a constant concept of imaginative creativity in our lives. You could argue that anybody that makes a story or concept role-played it because they had to imagine it.
They had to imagine it and build upon it.
Exactly.
I still have to build upon the characters of the story I've been writing for the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's like, in that sense, I argue if you had knowledge of basic 3D design and stuff like that, and you're a constant role player, you'd be an extremely good game designer.
Well, at least for story, but you'd have to do a whole nother thing to learn how to code.
This is why it takes all sorts of people. Ultimately, there are just going to be some things you aren't good at, and you're going to have to rely upon other people to make a vision come true. However, that's not necessarily a selfish idea because it all is determined by what you want to do this for. Do you want to do this to create a great story, to see a dream and imagination and aspiration come to life? Because I almost guarantee a lot of people will support you for that and try and help you. Or do you do it for money?
Oh, that's a good question.
For the basic exoptable things that you can get and things like that. What do you use your passion and your talents and your creativity for? I won't go as far.
Money.
Yeah, I won't go as far as to say, do you use it for good or do you use it for evil? Because ultimately those are concepts at which people would draw the line of their morals or their integrity.
Do you want to hear about the characters I have which were completely born out of roleplay rather than any other kind of brainstorming?
Yeah, sure.
Ditzy was originally born of that. Well, my Ditzy, timely Ditzy do, you know.
Yeah.
That I originally roleplayed out. I'm trying my hardest to remember the first time I started that character. It was on Second Life, I believe, No, I remember. I saw Mr. Davies' Cupcakes video.
Oh, God.
And I was so upset and angry about cannibalism and Pinkie Pie that I wrote her violent death, and then very slowly the killing force behind it very, very carefully became Ditzy and Hyde. Well, the anger at least became Hyde, and then the humanity behind it became Ditzy.
It's interesting because the thing that is like always awesome about imagining is that right and wrong is established by the philosophies of the person that created that world. Whatever they want to establish as right and wrong is right and wrong, and nobody can tell them that that world can't exist in their mind. But like, the thing about creating a world in your imagination, in your mind, is you can't let it go to an extreme. You can't basically say, this is reality, this is what it is, this is how I will live my life, and things like that. Because if you do, suddenly you've broken the fine line that you can't establish fantasy from reality. Fantasy does have to exist, because that allows people to express themselves and hold on to that creative nature that moves us forward.
It also allows us, at least in my case, to vent anger and frustration out.
Exactly. And that's the thing about an imagination. Most of the time, and this is really a deep topic I want to touch on. Indie game developers, most of them develop games that base off of philosophies or traumas they have suffered in their life. And it is amazing. Flawless, in fact, because it actually shows you a glimpse of the human psyche and just how much of an oblivion it can be when people destroy it.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. We actually have a very specific topic for that if the random number generator selects it within the next 3 hours.
Yes.
It's very likely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I'll just talk about another one then. The personality for Mimic. Everything about her was conceived out of a talk with a friend of mine who is actually a psychologist. He's the clockwork pony on Tumblr or something.
Ah.
His character that he plays the most because he's interested in psychology is named Dr. Rorschach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know about this. You mentioned Rorschach in the story. The Disney story.
He's actually going to be in it, but I asked his permission. I asked the permission of one of his friends to include a character that is commonly shipped with his character in as well.
And both came back as yes, I'm supposing?
Yes, it did, as long as I give credit.
Yay!
Well, that's fun. I even get to put one of Chippy's characters in because he said yes.
Honestly, my establishment on people that want to roleplay out their fantasies and stuff like that, go a fucking head. I am sick and tired of people complaining about people just wanting to create their own fantasies. Those people fucking do it, and the only reason they complain about other people's fantasies is because they can't accept anything that's not the fantasy they want to design.
Well, I only have a problem with fantasies people create if their fantasies involve being Chuck Norris or Superman.
Yeah, there are some stupid fantasies, but hey, if we're going to have a right to our fantasies, then those people have to exist too. If not,
yes, they do exist, I admit it.
If not, we become a little hypocritical in saying, okay, our stuff deserves to exist, but because they're different from us, they don't deserve that. That's, in a way, I'm not trying to mark us down as evil or anything like that, but it does make us appear selfish.
I guess.
But, that's just human nature. Things are not always as they seem. And, of course, there's a lot of things that establish on that, like people that want you to trust them and things like that. I think the game BioShock touched really well on that.
Yes, BioShock.
Like, the one guy you trust throughout that entire game, and he was never someone you could trust.
I have played and beaten the second game. I still need to play the first, and I still need to beat BioShock Infinite.
That's why I'm not giving away any specific names.
Good. Because I don't need spoilers. Besides, I think that guy you're talking about is Armstrong.
Armstrong.
Well, oh well. Next topic?
Alright, what is the next topic?
Number 8. Should content created for oneself be dependent on the opinion of others? Such as if you make a picture for yourself and only for yourself, should it be dependent on what other people want you to make?
No, of course not. If you make it for yourself, it's a gift to you. You. It's all about what you think about your work when it's meant for you.
Right. But then all of a sudden, because you made something a lot of people don't like, there's 200 messages waiting on your in your inbox saying that you're a faggot.
Yeah, those are called assholes. We don't associate with them because they are assholes. You hate them because that's common human philosophy. Anything that wants to destroy or tear down the foundations of what you are or what you've designed as your own identity is, in fact, by your reality, the antagonist. Therefore, in your reality, it could be family, it could be friends, or it could be somebody you don't even know. By your standards, you want nothing to do with them. They're evil. They seek to destroy everything that is you. And you, in an act of self-preservation, want nothing to do with them. It's not a selfish thing. It's very much human nature.
To want to turn other people to essentially your ideas so that you don't disagree with them?
Not always. Okay, trying to conform people to your ideas is wrong.
But we'll talk about that later.
And trying to force them is even worse. But ultimately...
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. But ultimately, going right back to the subject, if you fucking make it for yourself, it only matters what you think. And all those people that are fucking yelling at you for something you created distinctively for you can go suck a bag of dicks. Because it was never their place to give their opinion.
Nah, they suck so much dicks, they are a bag of dicks. And they're only pissy because somebody kicked them in their dicks.
When it's meant for the public, it means you want to hear their opinion. But when it's meant for you, it only matters what you think about it.
It's very hard to do that, though. Take Gamepad or Darky, for example. Both of them left because DeviantArt was just so poisonous to them.
Oh, it's cancer. It's fucking cancer.
Wow.
Even I have adopted the term of just calling it cancer, but it's not
a malignant tumor.
It's not a malignant tumor, but it's definitely
the Sonic community.
It's definitely something that swells with overpopulation and just it's damaging.
Differing opinions and if you were to go through my DeviantArt and go back to the very first things I posted, which were my first attempts at drawing, you might see a comment, unless I removed it, of a guy yelling at me that the girl that I drew looked like she had spooge filling her hair, which was supposed to be reflections. Spooge everywhere. I don't know what that voice is, don't ask me.
The thing that's sad, though, is you get so many freaking mean people that just say downright cruel things that because they don't like what you're doing. You don't know what's a joke and what's people just trying to hurt you. So ultimately, you lose your sense of humor if those people damage you too much.
Which is a lot of the times why my brother used to yell at me that I could never take a fucking joke because
honestly, like
humor's a bit mean.
Just for Chip's sake, the way a lot of people feel about him is not his fault. I'm just going to say that right now. But the reason people are what they are is a very rational reason, and it's simply because of what this community has become. It's simply put, it's what this place has become. And the fact that it's causing these people to turn against one another, and no matter how many years they hold on to some kind of bond or some kind of establishment that says this person is good, as soon as they say like one thing this person doesn't like or one thing established, because of the philosophies that have been burnt into their head by the constant negativity they've had spewed their way, they instantaneously believe that these people are out to antagonize and defeat them.
Well then.
And it's not their fault. It's not.
It isn't. Unfortunately, I think I've said this in a previous podcast. No matter what you do, no matter how you act, no matter what you think, someone in the world is going to hate you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep. And you try to ignore the harassment and stuff like that, but Like, the thing that caused this fear was that those numbers of negativity just stockpiled on because people believed it was right to antagonize, attack, and emotionally damage these people, creating internal conflicts from which there is no escape. They assumed that was right and set it to a holier-than-thou motion. And then they call us hypocrites for hating on them for the damage that they've caused.
Well, we have a reason to hate them. We're not bigots.
No, we're not bigots. We're not hating on people because they hate bronies. We're hating on people because they won't stop hating on us to the extent that they harass us.
I could use as an example the time PC and Asterix and his friends.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's nothing.
Our call.
Yeah, there's nothing excusable about that. It's stupid, it's ignorant, and it's digressive. What point were they trying to prove? I'm stupider than you? Because that's all I heard.
Oh well, they were very stupid. I've never heard the N-word so many times.
I'm making all the people that just don't like bronies naturally look bad? Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's sad because these people that don't like bronies, that's the voice that's representing them. That's the voice that's being the loudest, and they can't overshadow it.
Did you count how many times I told them to choke on my cock?
Yeah.
That was quite a bit.
Yeah, the reason being, though, what they will establish was not because you were bigoted, but because they were being rude and you owed them nothing for their rudeness.
They were being rude, I owed them nothing, and they were being selfish pricks, so I thought, hey, I'll have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah. Exactly. And, like, you know, people can freaking troll all they want, but the natural philosophy is there. An asshole is gonna get treated like shit because that's the only way an asshole learns.
Or doesn't learn.
Or doesn't learn. In which case,
nobody likes me. I just called him a faggot.
The goal is that everybody doesn't like that asshole, so they can grow past that asshole. That's just what...
And that asshole
has to be for the people that want to express themselves freely. That's what has to be, because that's just the way of the world. If they're going to be an asshole, you can't like them. Because, like... Basically, if you like a person that constantly insults, negligates, and pretty much erroneously and openly stereotypes you and tries to mark you as an object and less than a human being, showing them love is only showing that you accept what they're saying about you.
And then making them feel good about it.
Yes, and you can't do that.
That's reinforcing the behavior.
Yes, that says, okay, they're right to dehumanize you. They're not. They're not. Dehumanization is never right. Never.
Never. Never, ever. It wasn't right in the 1940s. It isn't right now.
I mean, we don't dehumanize them. We just call them stuck-up, bigoted assholes, because that's what they are. They're trying to force us to change, and then assume that we're trying to force them to change just because we don't like them.
There's actually a line in a song I'd like to quote for this. It's, "I'm Still Here" by the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah.
Why would they want me to change if they're the ones that stay the same?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not bigoted, we're open to diversity. Although I do have to say one thing. There is bad in bronyism. There is. Because there are just some people that have turned it, like, so bigoted. Because I said, oh, you don't like ponies? Well, fuck you! But all of it dawns from the fact that people tried to conform them, so they became what they hated to try and protect what they held dear. Which is sad, honestly.
Yeah, there actually was a point where I was one of those bad bronies.
Yeah, there was. There was a point where all of us were one of those bad bronies. But it wasn't because we were bad. It was because of that nature we were exposed to. We either had to adapt, learn from our mistakes, or damage whatever tried to damage us.
It's only natural. Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. That's what because humans act so bigoted and in the refusal of the way to change to constantly demand that everything stay the same, this is what creates the divide and conflict between mankind that will go on for an eternity.
Yes,
but
as much as you preach it, you can't reach everybody.
at the same time, while it's an ugly thing, it's also a beautiful thing because it spreads out that diversity is the most beautiful thing that can exist in the world because it will constantly allow people to be free. And out of that bunch of the corrupted, you always know there will at least be one person constantly fighting for what's right.
So, should we move on to the next topic? Because we're getting pretty righteous about this one.
Yeah, it's touchy.
Touch it. Touch it. Touch the knife.
That's what a streamer used to say about Binding of Isaac.
Yeah. I think I saw that stream. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Topic number 6. The genius and stupidity of Dragon Ball Z universe.
Okay, the genius of the Dragon Ball Z universe is that it allows a lot of...
Xenoverse.
Xenoverse?
The game.
Yeah, I know Xenoverse, but the Dragon Ball Z universe is what Xenoverse ties into, so...
Yes.
Basically, the thing I enjoy about Xenoverse is it allows people to live out their own Dragon Ball Z fantasies. And Dragon Ball Z necessarily isn't a bad thing because it was one of the original animes that spawned the idea of what animes were supposed to be about. Now, the argument is Goku is probably one of the single most overpowered protagonists there has ever been in an anime ever.
They've obviously never seen Segato Sanshiro or Superman or Chuck Norris.
Exactly, but
or Beowulf.
The reason I think that was an argument was because Dragon Ball Z was one of the progenitors to a lot of these. It's a very, very old anime.
It spawned a lot of the tropes that we see nowadays.
Yeah, but, you know, honestly, a lot of people might actually hate me for saying this. I don't think these tropes are bad. Because, alright, granted, while Goku might be a big, muscle-bound guy, the one thing that establishes Goku, aside from a lot of protagonists, is he's not a brute.
No, in fact, he only likes to fight because it's fun.
He likes to fight because it's fun. It's his passion. It's what he enjoys. But more importantly, like, Goku originally did not have a philosophy to kill. He never wanted to kill his enemies or individuals he fought. But Goku would swallow his pride and always say, I have to do what's right, because if I don't stop them, then no one can.
Physically, nobody is able to if he can't do it.
Mm-hmm. But ultimately, there's a greater philosophy behind Dragon Ball Z. It's about giving up, like, basically the very few of your philosophies that would limit you, breaking those limits simply for the purpose to allow life to preserve itself, or to protect what you hold most precious, which surprisingly a lot of people will allow themselves to become dehumanized or turn themselves into monsters, not to hurt others, but simply for that main purpose of protecting what is precious to them.
I could actually use a couple examples. One I made and one that I saw in Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah. Like, ultimately, Goku is that establishment of saying there are people that would gladly become a god if they could prevent harm from coming to those they cared about.
He does become a god. It's actually...
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Because Goku was that, like, idea behind people who would willingly become a god just to protect what they care about. And the thing about Battle of Gods is it gave emphasis to that meaning behind Goku.
Yes, it did. And in fact, I think Lord Beerus... Yeah, if you don't call him Lord Beerus, he gets pissy.
Yeah.
The god of destruction, Lord Beerus... He keeps poking at Goku about it. He finds destruction delicious, and that annoys Goku. He keeps trying to point out that being a god is a wonderful thing. But Goku's having none of it, because that's not how he thinks. That's not how he acts. It's not how he behaves, even with that power.
Yeah, it's the thing. Goku's not just a male fantasy. He's a dive into the human psyche for protective nature. Goku's main reason for killing and like freaking destroying and blowing up half land masses is simply for the purpose of protecting that which matters to him. It's nothing more, nothing less. The reason he does it is so he can become stronger. And the true purpose to him becoming stronger is so there is no enemy that he can't defeat.
Well, it at least makes it more fun that way.
Yeah. Goku has to be the victor because Goku stands up for everything that's right. And if he falls, there's no one else that can save them.
It's actually very interesting. He's an interesting character because you can empathize with it. Empathize. Fucking hard words.
A lot of people...
You can empathize with him.
You know, a lot of people will argue that Goku was a Mary Sue, but we have to establish that anime is a very old concept. And Dragon Ball is a very ancient anime. It goes
the
pretty
original
far back.
Dragon Ball is very fun, I think. It's actually even dirtier than the other ones.
Goku is the idea that invented Mary Sue's, but Goku himself is not a Mary Sue. What Goku is
a character that evolved from nothing to everything.
Yeah. Basically, those people that want to establish in greatness just to do what they believe is right, not just for money, not just for power. Goku wants to become the most powerful so that he can keep doing what's right and never be stopped from doing that. That's why people emphasize with him and enjoy him so much as a character, time and time again.
I like Kid Goku. His first vagina he ever saw was Bulma's. And he was wondering because she didn't have a penis.
Yeah.
So you even get to see him take off her underwear and then freak the fuck out.
Yeah. It's like the reason I think a lot of people enjoy Dragon Ball Z and Goku is because they realize, oh hey, like a lot of the ideas people have about OCs and various animes today came from this guy.
Yeah, well, you can't always be a powerful thing. Unless you're in an extraordinary circumstance, you have a ceiling.
You know, it established that because in Battle of Gods, Goku actually lost the battle.
Yes. He's lost a lot of battles. He's even died on occasion.
Yeah, but he always comes back.
Because I wish him back with Dragon Balls.
Actually, it's kind of funny. It kind of gives life to what Rocky Balboa said. And no one can hit harder than life. But life ain't about
harder than life.
Ain't no one can hit harder than life. But life ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can be hit and be able to keep moving forward.
All right.
Oh, hold on.
Hold on. What am I supposed to do for the next 9-10 minutes until we take a break? Oh, I know. I'll just do random shit. So, guys, did you know I have a button mash blog? It's kind of fun. It's portraying a button mash that has a hypersexuality disorder. It's quite interesting. Just him trying to suppress these sexual emotions that he's not supposed to have as an 8-year-old. I think it's fun anyway.
It's just I can't stop thinking about vaginas, and I have this really big dick. It's just really difficult.
I think Shady Vox would be ashamed of me. Are you back? I kept the silence from going too silent.
Yes, I had some unexpected guests.
Unexpected guests.
Again. Yes.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about the genius and stupidity of Xenoverse, and I never got to talk about it.
The genius and stupidity of Xenoverse.
Okay. I'll talk about the pros, which are the genius parts, and then I'll talk about the negatives, which I believe are the stupidities.
Right.
What I believe is genius about Xenoverse is it makes you create your own character to be pushed into this story that feasibly exists with the actual anime. You star as a time patroller who is summoned to Trunks' aid by Shenron after he makes a wish on the Dragon Balls.
Right.
Essentially, you are given as this sort of messiah that is able to overcome the coming trials at least as far as Shenron is concerned.
Yep.
You start from literally nothing and train up to everything, just like Goku does.
Yeah.
You get to battle with everyone throughout time, and just from my playing it, which is about 39 hours-ish, I've almost gotten to max level, and I can solo most of the really tough enemies, so if my character were in the anime, it would be unfair. Because she can beat Super Saiyan God Goku one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's kind of stupid. I keep nicknaming her the Adorbs because she's a Majin. It's fun. Well, the Majins are bubblegum monsters, and it's just so cute.
Yes.
Alright, now on to the stupidities. I really like the parallel quest system because it lets you repeat a lot of the battles throughout time and train your character up. What I don't like is, on the later ones, what they substitute for difficulty is the NPCs ganging up on you and spamming over and over and over again until your health hits 0 and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
That's retarded as fuck. And then everything on it is built on a randomizer. Absolutely everything. Even if you really need this move to progress and to better your character so that you can survive better, it randomly drops. If you need to get a specific Z-Soul, which is an item that boosts your stats without altering your equipment, you have to keep grinding the same location over and over again. Sometimes you can get on your first try, your 5th try, or your 1000th try. It's completely random.
1000th try. That would suck.
Yeah. I tried to grind out the fucking Z-Soul so that way I could get the best Z-Soul in the game so I would never have to worry about the thing again. But I was at it for 7 hours, didn't get it. Anyways. I mean, next part.
I honestly don't really enjoy grinding. I mean, I understand, grinding makes you feel a sense of accomplishment when you actually do get what you're looking for.
Especially with this game, yes. It makes you feel like you're actually getting stronger.
But sometimes it feels like an empty success because there are like certain games you can grind in and it doesn't feel like once you finally found what you were looking for, that stronger weapon, it's not really that much stronger.
Oh, that's what I kept yelling about with Final Fantasy VII the first time I played it. I was just so upset that it wouldn't let me just play the fucking game at the start that I kept mashing one button over and over again. Got to the first boss, almost died because there's a part where you're supposed to not attack it. And I skipped the dialogue, which told me so.
Yeah.
But it's just because it wouldn't let me play the goddamn game already. It was just all this exposition. I wanted to play the game. Same with Metal Gear Rising. I just wanted to play the goddamn game. I don't care about your goddamn cutscenes.
Yeah. People put the cutscenes in to create, like, a story, but...
Or to show off their visual styles.
Anymore nowadays, the story really has to be something in order for people to be interested in it.
I do agree with that. It does have to be something.
Like, it has to be, like, really something special. There's nothing original anymore, but it does have to be something that really makes people think.
Oh, yes, I was back to the retarded stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one that I have a gripe with is the gear system. Fuck that shit! The gear, I like how a lot of it looks. It's all from the anime. It's all very loyal to everything, but everything has a negative, which means you can't get the special outfit you want without getting lots of negatives or random positives and stats you don't even use.
Yeah.
So I've had to toy with my character's outfit over and over again just to get this one outfit that negates all the negatives, but only adds minor positives. Which just means that the gear is practically useless. I might as well have stuck with the gear they gave me at the beginning of the game, which has no pluses or minuses.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the clothes should be an aesthetic thing. I get what they're trying to do because the weighted clothes in the anime, if they take them off, they're a bit stronger because their body is less fatigued. But trying to implement it into an RPG-based game like this, I guess it works. It's just I'm not a fan of it. I use all of the stats. I'm a very rounded character in that. I have to depend on everything, because otherwise I get smoked.
Exactly.
Because again, I started with nothing, and then I had to invest about, I think it's because I started at level 1 and now I'm level 73. It's about, math is hard. 219 points, I believe.
Honestly, I think the reason people made Dragon Ball Xenoverse was to please the fans of Dragon Ball Z by creating some sort of slightly unique Dragon Ball Z game. Because
it's not slightly unique; it is wonderfully unique.
It's
fantastic.
it's wonderfully unique. Like, it's obviously the new Dragon Ball Z game, and a lot of people are interested in it for 2 reasons. It is one of the very first Dragon Ball Z games that lets you design your own character. But more importantly, it's widely multiplayer and not just player versus player like any old-fashioned fighting game.
But it is also player versus player.
Yeah, it's also player versus player, but you can
and it's
play.
Not exclusively online, which I like.
You can play with more friends at a time on Dragon Ball Z now as well. So
yeah. With up to 6 people fighting at once. It's ridiculous.
But, like, the real reason people want this game is because no matter what, it's Dragon Ball Z. And a lot of people enjoyed the Dragon Ball Z games when they played them, so they wanted to give Xenoverse a chance. And honestly, I feel like they won't be very disappointed if they're just playing for the Dragon Ball Z experience.
Well, the Dragon Ball Z experience, debatably, are all the games that came out on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
The Budokai Tenkaichi series. I have Budokai Tenkaichi and Tenkaichi 3. Both of those games are much more cinematic for every move, and it includes every last fucking character in all of the anime combined. It's more complete than Xenoverse.
Honestly, Xenoverse looks like it was trying to take all those old games, mash them together, and try to make them perfected, but it's impossible to do that.
They did a very good job, though.
They did a good job.
My gripe about it is that they didn't include every last character, which would mean that their character roster would be 3 or 4 times the size it is currently. I will give it to them that they did include a lot of the characters. I'm happy Kid Buddha is there. Kid Boo's one of my favorites. I mean, he's an angry fucking time bomb. So anyway, we're closing in on our first break out of the 2 that we're going to have to take because this is ridiculously long.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, I think we should talk about something that isn't on the topic list. Maybe we should talk about... Oh, I don't know. Hey, Will, what are you wearing?
What am I... A red shirt and jeans.
Does it make you hot to be in those? I'm sorry, I had to. All right, we're at the break point. Just hit stop on the recording in a few minutes. So we'll be right back. It'll be instantaneous for all of you guys watching.
Bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back to the SnuggleBear podcast. That's probably only been 1 second for you. That was 15 minutes for me. Anyways.
Yes.
So, you're not going to like this topic.
Yes, first off, my unexpected guests went to go get Pizza Hut because they discovered one of their movie tickets from yesterday was a Pizza Hut coupon.
That, I still think that's funny. But do you want to hear the topic now?
Yeah, let's hear it.
If you had to go gay for anyone in the world, who would it be?
Fuck you!
I know.
If I had to go gay for... Oh my god, that's the hard question, because I don't know anybody I'd go gay for.
This can be celebrities, friends, I don't care.
Fuck. Ah, this is so embarrassing.
Want me to
Who
do
the
it first?
Fuck with... Yeah, go ahead.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Fuck you!
What?
How many girls, like, enjoy Leonardo DiCaprio?
He has a hot face and a hot body.
I don't know. Technically, considering you may eventually be getting a sex change, would it be considered gay after that?
Megan Fox.
I don't think so. Megan Fox. Oh, I see. Changing it up a little. Once you change your gender, you're gonna go fuck a woman. Fantastic.
Absolutely. I still haven't. I'm likely still going to have a cock just because I know that the technology isn't perfected for sex changes yet.
They can give you a vagina.
They can.
That's a weird way of putting it, but they can.
But there's a marginal error that could stop me from ever having an orgasm ever again.
Yeah, there's also the fact that if you do have your sex organ swapped, you can't bear children. People who have had a sex change cannot bear children.
I know.
Yeah. That's one consequence.
That's the one part that makes me sad about it, but...
adoption.
Better than nothing. Yeah, I know.
Not to mention, there is a concept called surrogating where you could still have a child that's biologically yours.
Yes. Actually, I considered that with my ex-girlfriend once. We talked in depth about it. We'd take one bit of each of our DNA, and then that would be spliced into one sperm cell that would be fertilizing an egg for a surrogate mother.
Yes.
So then it would be our kid.
Yeah. It's cute.
Absolutely adorbs.
I mean, people consider it an abomination, but a child's a child no matter what. Are you going to establish that this child is devil's advocate just because it was born? You asshole.
It's just like the argument of, if we don't care what gender the baby's going to be, we will love it all the same, and then suddenly complaining about when their assigned gender isn't the one they identify with.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be one to complain about that, though, because you know what that's like.
I do know what that's like.
Yeah. But it's like funny, people did actually crack a joke, what if transsexuals had a transsexual child?
Well, if transsexuals had a transsexual child, they'd say, oh, okay.
I raised a girl, not a girl who thought he was a boy.
Listen, son-daughter thing, this is going to be difficult for everybody, so you should probably spend a few years thinking about it before you make any decisions. Yeah. That's at least what I did.
Honestly, like, I don't really understand what homosexuality and transsexuality is. People argue it's a mental illness. It's not.
It's not.
People argue it's biological. There's no way to prove that. People argue it's genetic. There's no way to prove that. What is it?
It's quite simple. It's them.
Them?
Them.
Wouldn't that mean it's genetic then? I don't know. No?
Just because it's not genetic, mental, or physical, or caused by anything that you can identify with, it doesn't mean that it's not a part of them.
So there's some other part of humanity that people have yet to touch on.
Indeed.
So it's plausible. I would definitely agree with that.
All right, cough it up. Who would you go gay for?
Elijah Wood, I don't know.
Elijah Wood? Okay.
Distinctive reasons. He has a sexy voice.
Okay. I thought you would have done Shia LaBeouf because of that Real Cannibal Shia LaBeouf song.
Oh, God, no.
Which he attended the performance of and clapped to.
Honestly, I'd go gay for Elijah Wood because he really taps into my nerdy side, and he's voiced for a lot of things I enjoy, including Lord of the Rings and the Legend of Spyro series. Happy Feet.
Nice.
And 9. I enjoyed all of those. They were good.
Well then, all right, Elijah Wood it is.
Yeah.
Original OTP, do not steal.
Don't tell... Oh, wait, fuck, never mind.
Don't tell anyone. I promise I won't tell anyone. I'll just show them the podcast.
You bitch! You are mean.
No, I'm not.
Oh, well. I know one person that will be okay with this.
Who's that?
Neon.
Yeah, Neon will be okay with it.
Yes! Neon's just like, yes! Yes!
Yes!
Ah, yeah, baby!
Yes!
Oh,
this is all this part of the podcast is going to be.
Yes! Yes!
Oh, yes! Oh! Okay, that got really bad.
God, no! I've heard enough shit about femset and stuff. I don't need any more orgasm
Come on,
sounds.
that was me.
I know that was you. It's just, ugh.
I like to ride my dinosaur.
There was a whole lot of sexual discussion about both.
I like to ride my dinosaur.
Yep.
There's Femset. There you go.
Yep. There was a lot of sexual discussion about Femset and Fempad in those freaking chats with Gamepad. It was insane.
Oh my god. That's his reaction watching anything that has to do about sex. Informational videos. The mere implication about a sexual act.
By the way, on a side
SpongeBob
note,
SquarePants episode.
by the way, on a side note, do you like my new profile picture?
Oh, your new profile pic, the Nautilus Noon Media? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
Yes, that's the logo for mine, David, Viral, Chris, and our entire Warframe community's
Cool.
Let's Play channel we want to start.
Ah.
And David has a friend. Her name's Lori. She's transsexual as well.
Okay.
And she has a huge interest in turning this Nautilus Noon Media into a thing. Because she wants to move to North Carolina and meet like a lot of the friends that she knows on the internet, like
All right.
David, for example. Well, David and Viral aren't just friends she knows on the internet; they're friends from childhood that she actually knew in person
Yeah.
before she identified as Lori.
You know what? Fuck it. Let's talk more about Nautilus Noon Media. Tell me more.
Okay, basically, Nautilus Noon Media branches off from the Willie8496 channel I started. I think mainly we're going to after my 300th video, we're going to transform this channel into Nautilus Noon Media with the fan base that I already have established.
This
And I'm
channel?
gonna-
You mean the SnuggleBear podcast channel? Oh,
No. This channel is in my Willie8496 channel. Not this channel. Not this channel. By the way, I am really open for the Let's Snuggles idea. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
that is a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, we might try that next weekend.
Yeah, or sometime this weekend, considering my weekend's extended. I don't know.
Well, for it, it's going to be interesting to try and figure out. Just because I have to figure out a way to share my screen with you, or you have to figure out a way to share your screen with me while having phone Skype, so that way we can keep the audio as high quality as possible.
Hey.
It's pretty fucking nonsense.
Yeah, it's something we'll have to work out, but we'll find a way.
We'll figure it out, everybody.
I mean, I can share screens just fine and record stuff, but that's because I've built a supercomputer, so yeah.
Oh, great. I need supercomputer parts.
Yeah. Which would require a lot of today's modern shit.
Which is overpriced and retarded.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
My dad gets a lot of this stuff half price off because he actually offers to professionally review a lot of this stuff. So they actually send him like special exclusive stuff to review. And if he gives a good, well-detailed review, he gets to keep that component, and he uses those exclusive components that companies send to him to build extremely special computers.
Okay.
Yeah. It's mostly graphics cards, processing systems. He gets his own motherboards and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next topic. The current topic is the importance of laughter in medical practice, and this is based off of the movie Patch Adams.
Laughter in medical practice. Well, if you keep someone happy, if you keep them like obligated to stay alive, I suppose, give them that motivation to keep fighting, perhaps, if they have like a dire illness. Like people with cancer, they always try and cheer people with cancer up because they know for a fact that that's going to help the person stay alive, because it's all a matter of morale. Apparently, the common philosophy is that death is not just a like physical thing, it's a psychological thing. When a person is dead inside, they're more willing to like succumb to death or give in to that overwhelming notion of constant pain they may be feeling or suffering. Cancer, for example. Apparently, it's kind of an unfathomable thing, and cancer is all about a battle to stay alive. Mainly, doctors like try to prescribe that the main purpose to assist that battle in staying alive is, and I quote, to keep that person motivated.
Right.
If that person's not motivated to stay alive, they won't be alive the next day.
Or they might still be alive. Cancer is a very weird thing.
It's a bizarre thing. Like, people assume, alright, if they get exposed to something crushing or something belittling, like, will they have that strength to keep fighting their illness? Or will they just succumb?
It's hard to say.
Really, honestly, like, not wanting to show someone the shock of reality when they have a dire illness is more of a philosophical thing than it is a scientific thing. And people should understand, scientists and medical professionals apply a lot into their philosophies as well. Like, people that operate on people, they really, like surgeons and stuff, they really have a hard time when they actually lose someone on the operating table, knowing that somebody just died and they feel at fault for it.
And some actually become such hard asses about it that they very slowly lose their humanity.
Exactly.
All in the name of saving lives. They come to expect to be treated like princes because of their doctorly position.
Yeah. Most become, like, either damaged by the deaths they've had to realize. Each time they have to write down that somebody died, each time they have to take record of a time of death, it can be crushing for people because they know that person's dead. And it's like, if you witness somebody you barely even know die in front of you, it all depends on what your philosophies are. But even you can weep for somebody you've not even known if you watch them die in front of you. And that's, like, a main thing about being a doctor or a surgeon. You don't want to lose that patient. And the sad thing is, a lot of doctors make the mistake of developing an emotional attachment to the patient when they're not supposed to try and do that. They're supposed to try and keep the patient's morale up, to keep that person alive, because all life is valuable. All life is precious.
Why can't they have an emotional attachment to the patient?
Ultimately, medical staff and things like that do not want doctors, nurses, or anybody in the medical profession to grow an attachment to the patient, because if that person is lost, it is so crushing to accept that. It's harder to accept that reality, and people can become damaged by it. It's not really an evil thing. It's like, okay, if I develop an emotional attachment to somebody who will die in 2 weeks, I know they're going to die. But am I going to be able to accept that when that happens?
It's like saying goodbye to an old friend.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. Personally, if I were a doctor, I would not be able to handle the position. The very sight of blood makes me want to vomit. But if I were, I wouldn't be as damaged by death just because of my specific views on the idea. I've already witnessed death plenty of times myself.
Yeah, the reason doctors get paid so much is because they're extremely valuable to human survival. And ultimately, I don't necessarily find it wrong that people in that profession get paid so much, because yes, for every asshole that wants to flaunt around his ability to save lives, there's also that man that feels crushed, or that woman that feels crushed every single time a patient is lost, which is eventually going to happen. It's an inevitable attribute.
I don't see any doctors throwing their money at charities or anything like that.
No. There are some, but not a lot.
Okay.
It's mostly because medical profession in and itself isn't a charity, but in that sense, they shouldn't... Like, doctors, I don't think, throw their money at charity because they're already working to save lives. I don't really... It's complicated, honestly. To me, though, it just seems weird if a doctor donated to charity.
Why is that?
I don't know why. It's just strange.
I don't understand why it'd be weird. Doctors are in the business to help people.
Yeah, the doctor's job is to save lives. And it's like, okay, they donated to a charity, they're obviously saving lives, but they're already saving lives because every day it's a battle to save lives in that profession.
But they're saving lives in more than one way that way. Whereas operations and counseling and making them laugh, making them smile, that's helping them in the physical sense.
Yeah, and that's
or the
why,
mental sense,
you
but
know, in a
not
sense,
in a global sense.
in a sense, it's not necessarily wrong to develop an emotional attachment to patients, but I think psychologists and people that, like, have a sense of trying to understand the human mind have more of a right to it. Simply because psychologists have to become close to that person in order to gain understanding of that person's mental attributes. And to gain that person's trust, that person has to know they can trust you. Which is why psychologists keep a lot of stuff about their patients confidential. They want their patients' trust.
And legally they have to.
And legally they have to. But a lot of psychologists actually go into the profession to understand the human mind and help people. Not just for, like, the money. Okay, you understand psychologists do make a good amount of money. Doctors do make a good amount of money. Most people that have gone into the medical profession went into it because they were good at it and wanted to do the right thing. A lot of them go into the medical profession because they want to save lives, do the right thing, and because they're good at it.
I go to a special therapy clinic to try and help with my depression that they charge me based on my income, which is 0. So they charge me at least very little. But I don't know their salaries. I just know that my contribution to their salary is pretty small.
Yeah. Ultimately, like, my view on doctors, sadly, is kind of an appeal to authority thing, because every time I've had to go to the hospital, I have to rely upon doctors to save my life. As a result, because I'm an extremely moral individual, I'm extremely grateful for people who consider me relevant or want to save my life, and as a result, I develop an emotional attachment to doctors and people of medical profession. Even if, in that reality, they could be stuck-up assholes. I can't view it as that when my only focus is somebody has to care about me, somebody has to save my life because I can't do it alone.
I actually have a few gripes about doctors. I've never once been in a hospital for surgery of any kind. But I have... The only surgery I've ever had was to get my wisdom teeth removed.
Yeah.
I had to be on Valium, otherwise I would have screamed bloody murder when they brought the fucking needles into my mouth.
Yeah.
Anyways, if I were in a hospital for a critical condition or a surgery, I would request that my doctor, 1, not be a prick, and 2, not be a medical student. Because I don't trust students.
Right. They need to be, like,
and as for a
professional.
prick, I want to be able to fucking talk to my doctor rather than them just not listen at all and pass me off as just being another number.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a person, goddammit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not a doctor, but I've actually had that notion of knowing some people think I consider them a number. I'm a creator. I make things. And I care about my work, but, like, the thing is, like, when you start to care about your work or when you want to drop some kind of subject of turmoil, for some reason these people view it as selfish, even though most of the time you do listen. I mean, this is going kind of deep into what I have to put up with in the concept of content creation and collaboration with other content creators in order to be able to create more content. And it's like, just because I collaborate or I agree with certain people because I see certain points, people assume that I'm just agreeing with people because they're popular or things like that. My argument is quite on the contrary, because I help everybody. No matter who they are, I've helped everybody at one point or another. I've helped everybody.
I tried that for the longest time, but eventually my constant willingness to help anybody destroyed me.
Exactly. And in that sense, I feel like I can't give up. Like, I have to keep trying. I have to. Maybe I can get through to these people. And honestly, every single time it seems for naught.
Whatever you do, try to separate helping people from putting your trust in them. Because
Right.
I couldn't separate that. And, well, that's why I got sexually taken advantage of 3 times.
Yeah. You try to help people, and suddenly you establish, okay, I'm trying to help them. Maybe I can trust them. You trust them, and then it turns out that you're the one that needs help afterwards.
Yeah, they covered that a little bit in Patch Adams. One of the characters went to a house to visit a psychologically disturbed patient who was very depressed. And I guess it didn't go over so well because it just suddenly cut to the news stating that she had been shot in the head with a shotgun after before the guy took his own life.
Yeah. It's like, in that sense, it establishes another inner conflict within me. It says, who can I trust? I can't not trust anybody, because I have to be able to trust somebody or I develop a sense of paranoia. But who do I trust?
Well,
do I trust the authority figures that seem like they know what they're talking about and sometimes say things that make sense? Or do I trust the people that are deluded by the pain that they constantly feel and think that what they're saying is right, when really you come to realize they only know half of the story and it's from what they've experienced? But it's not wrong, it's also not entirely right.
very true. I would say that to trust somebody, you have to, one, be their friend, and two, know enough about them to know how they think.
Ultimately, you come to realize when you try to understand two sides, each side is very diluted and one-dimensional. It's something like that has to be able to be established, and I've had to cope with that. It's, okay, their reality is one-dimensional. Their views on this person is bad. The person I've seen of this person, however, is not bad. But the reason this person views this person as bad is either because of misinterpretation of intent or just so much pain caused by other things that they used that individual as a sponge for their frustration.
Which is, both are possibilities. It's kind of fucking weird.
And ultimately I come to ask, is that evil? Is that selfish? Is that human? Is that normal? Is that okay? Should I try and stop it? If I try and stop it, am I then the antagonist? If I'm not the antagonist, what am I? Do I have the power to change any of this, or should I just give up?
Well, that's entirely up to you, actually. It's a very complicated question being asked what you should do. Personally, whenever somebody asks me that, and I've been asked that quite a bit, I usually ask them what they would usually do. But a lot of the times, because they're so caught up on what they should be doing right now, that they can't answer my question.
Yeah.
They're focusing too hard on the problem.
Honestly, anymore, I've actually been afraid to try and get involved in people's personal conflicts, even when they keep constantly bringing it up, and I'm going to keep constantly hearing it. I honestly, most of the time, when it's been shoved into my head, I feel obligated to help with it. And when I do, it feels like their conflict and their inner turmoils have rubbed off on me, and I'm either feeling what they're feeling, or my mind is emulating what they're feeling, and they're feeling something much deeper than what I'm feeling. But what I'm feeling is destroying me on the inside. And when I try and help, and I just become frustrated by the fact that these people refuse to listen and keep constantly seeing it as the way they want to see it, and not the way it should be seen. And it just becomes a battle more with myself, and suddenly I begin to realize I become more pitiful than the people struggling with their own inner conflicts, because I've adapted their conflicts and created my own conflict. Undestroyable, unendable conflict for which there is no resolution, which then I am faced with two options. Either pick a side or say screw everybody.
I'm in the middle of both. But it's only because my sanity has been pushed to quite the brink after having to help. Actually, let me defend myself a little better. Back in about 2010, I would sit down at my computer and do absolutely nothing but help. Just assist, comfort, make everyone feel better about themselves. Over 40 people at once. Over and over, just constantly checking in on them, learning their names, which I can't remember any of them now anymore. Just solving all of their problems by myself. 40 people.
But my ultimate...
Three of them came back to bite me.
Yeah, and my ultimate mistake in all this was that I came to realize when you help these people, they develop a quite heavily emotional attachment to you. And when they're as disturbed as certain people, they come to find that perhaps you're the only person they can put their trust in. And then all that weight falls on you and you alone. And you would feel bad if you can't help that person. And if you go at least 1 hour without answering a single question they ask, suddenly they feel like you don't care at all, regardless of the amount of things you've done for them.
Indeed. That's how it's like to talk to Shadowbolt.
Exactly.
Or sometimes Omega, but that's because Omega doesn't know the difference between busy and ignorance.
Yeah. I feel bad because for the longest time, Omega felt like I was neglecting him. And, quote, he felt like he could only admire me from afar. That I would never talk to him, never socialize with him, that he could only attempt to talk to me and never get a single reply, and in a sense he would message me quite a few times. And most of the time I would never notice any of his messages because I was worrying about something else.
There's a lot to worry about, more than one person on the internet who happens to be in Spain.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to focus on someone so far away when problems so much closer are so prevalent.
Well, it's like, when Omega said that was the way he was feeling, I couldn't help but feel like an asshole and feel like I was ignoring, perhaps neglecting this person.
You're also 12 hours behind him, so it's not surprising that some of his stuff you couldn't reply to.
Right. But it was like, he'd send me those messages, and they were there, but I'd never reply to them because I was always in the middle of something. And I wouldn't take 5 minutes out of dealing with that conflict to help that person. Which made me seem selfish, and allowed them to develop a distrust for me, which helped the other people that distrust me in hurting me. Unintentionally, but it happened.
Do you want to move on to another topic? This one's starting to get a little painful.
Yeah.
All right. We get to bash on something again. Why restrictive video games are the scum of the earth. Final Fantasy 13 Hallway Simulator.
Scum of the earth? Because it's not a fucking game. It's not fun.
It's an interactive movie. It's not even a fucking game anymore. It's a movie.
Technically, that's the term video games. It's supposed to feel like a movie you can play.
Not really. It's supposed to be an interactive experience.
More, it's supposed to be an interactive experience, but the reason it's video game is because it's a video that is a game.
Well, there is one game that came out recently, which carries on this trope of being more of a movie than a game, but giving you some actually pretty good gameplay when it does show up. The Order 1886.
You know what a lot of today's best games are?
What are they?
Puzzle-based games. Games that actually make you think or develop some kind of, interesting conflictual story. But games like Corpse Party and stuff like that, where you just go around interacting with stuff, trying to unveil the mystery or solve the crisis, for some reason, they're just so entertaining for people.
Indeed. It's just, you get to solve a mystery, solve a story. If you've ever been a child, you've probably seen What's New Scooby-Doo or Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Yeah, and the reason people enjoyed Scooby-Doo so much was because they enjoyed that sense of mystery, but Scooby-Doo also applied a cartoonish sense to mystery.
Yes, it took all the fear out of it.
But yeah, ultimately, you can establish there are a lot of people that enjoy and embrace mystery than fear it. Mainly because no matter how much you may establish some kind of sense of disearnest towards that mystery, you want to know answers.
Yes.
Oh, hold on just a second.
Oh, great. Now I have to speak the silence away. Okay, what to talk about this time? So, I'm a voice actress. I can make some funny voices. I have a lemongrab impression. It's not exact.
Ah, boy. My parents are home. I'm probably going to have to help them with the groceries.
Okay.
Should we take another break, or should I just leave you to sit here with your own thoughts?
Leave me to sit here with my own thoughts. I was actually saying something. It was hilarious.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Sup? How you doing? Watching our podcast? You enjoying yourself? I hope you are. Because it takes a lot of effort to make these, actually. We record all in one day, sure. We gather footage for games. We put it all together and then try our hardest to get it out before the weekend's end. But some of these take a very long time. Most of them I have to stay up until 5 in the morning just to make sure they upload correctly. It's very difficult to provide this content. I used to be a big Let's Player on my old channel, before I had to delete my old email address, and those videos went with it. Each one of those videos took 8 hours to make, even though they were only 15 to 30 minutes long. Editing alone was a bitch. I had to do my best just to make it work, to make it fit, to make old YouTube accept it. Old YouTube was a bitch. You had to publish almost 100 fucking videos that are 15 minutes long. A lot of the games I played back then, 15 minutes covers nothing. It's mostly the same shit, but then you get to the actual action, such as for Aliens vs. Predator 2013. God, I love that game. Anyways, I recorded every last inch of that game and then went on to Aliens vs. Predator 2, which I really liked. Didn't quite finish it because I was starting to slip into depression. It was rather goofy about it. I've never been a very, very big video maker. I usually said what I felt like saying and hated editing. I still don't like editing very much. But I'm at least good at it to some extent. A lot of these podcast episodes, I don't edit the audio too much, if only because I'd have to listen to a 3-hour podcast over and over again to make sure that there aren't any crackles or pops or whatever. So, we produce a lot of content in as short a time as possible, but we're thinking of doing Let's Play things, which might use Willie's editing style, which if you've ever been to his channels, it's kind of quirky. Just dancing pictures, random things appearing like, I am an error. Those fun things. I still have to get Will's ass moving on making his old content again, because the only reason he hasn't is he's lost motivation of it, just with the community in general hating story-based content, which I don't understand in the slightest, but it's there. Might as well talk about something. Hell, I'm having a difficulty monologuing myself, having this own self-commentary that this is why I don't make videos anymore. I don't have anything to talk about, at least mostly. I can talk about old things. I can't really talk about new things. I have difficulties talking about myself, even though I've completely abandoned all of my inhibitions about it. I see a therapist every Monday just to try and keep my sanity. Oh, this is getting depressing. I should probably think of something cheerier. So, episodes 1 and 2 of Season 5 of My Little Pony came out today. I was actually very scared of it, but we're probably going to talk about it later in this if the random number generator selects it. We started with 13 topics. We now have 6. Most of them I had to come up with at the last minute because, well, we were so behind on podcasts, and I downright deleted one of them because we had nothing to talk about. It takes a lot of effort to even come up with topics that generate all of this conversation. In fact, the only reason this podcast even exists is because Will has a lot to talk about. I get him started, I get the ball rolling, he keeps talking, I chime in, keep it rolling even further, and then eventually stop him so he can talk about something else. But that generally seems to be how most of these podcasts work. Oh, here I am monologuing. Again, this feels very weird. I'm talking to a silver dick-looking microphone while staring at a little Audacity thing, watching my waveforms go up and down. It's pretty weird. I remember Rooster Teeth having a little excerpt about them recording shit while they were bored with rendering episodes of Red vs. Blue. They were trying to make cocks out of sound waves, and it took a while. They kept making butt plugs. I thought it was funny. Yeah, this is the issue with monologuing. If I keep it silent for too long, it gets boring. And if it gets boring, people click to something else. And if people click to something else, they miss the rest of the content, or they search for the content somewhere else. I hate making content by myself, which is made with videos. I've considered making motion comics. That actually seems a bit fun. Combines my voice acting with what little I like to do with Source Filmmaker. I hate animating. Animating takes a very long time to make something that isn't even nearly as good as the people you like to watch on YouTube. And that's usually my frustration with a lot of things. A lot of effort for very little return. It would probably take me years of constant learning to make Source Filmmaker work for me. But then again, Source Filmmaker has been the closest I've been able to come to actually making pictures that of just about anything I want. I tried drawing pictures before. I still suck at it. In fact, all I can do is draw fucking stick figures, pretty much. Well, it's a bit more than stick figures. They're Adventure Time characters, but they're pretty much noodle heads. Not heads, noodle limbs, whatever. I used to write page after page about anatomy, just trying my hardest to find a system for it. But there isn't a system for it. It's learn, try to find a trend, try to copy it, try to copy what other people do, and try your very hardest just to keep going. Just keep pushing, to keep going past even your own negativity. You look at your own drawing and say, it sucks, it's not as good as that guy's drawing. No matter how much I work at it, it doesn't get better. I couldn't do it. I tried drawing for about 2 or 3 years. I can only draw Adventure Time characters, and only humanoids. And I don't draw anymore because it's boring.
Jesus.
Hi, I monologued. That was difficult as fuck. Thank you for saving me. Oh, God.
How long was I gone?
About 10 minutes-ish.
Okay, that's not too bad.
It felt like a lot longer.
Yeah, it does when you're monologuing to yourself.
Yeah, I even talked about it, and if you're probably going to have to watch the podcast yourself to see my monologue. I feel kind of egotistical when I monologue, because most of the times when I monologue to myself, it's me coming up with a script. Yes.
Yeah.
I talked about making motion comics with Source Filmmaker.
Yay.
I thought that would be a good idea, personally.
That sounds great, honestly.
It does? All right. Well, it would combine what I know of Source Filmmaker and what I know of voice acting. Do I sound kind of congested to you?
Congested, as in, like...
My nose is clogged or something? It just feels like it to me.
I don't think you're congested.
Yeah, there it goes. Okay, much better.
Okay.
Right.
I didn't really notice. You sound the same as you usually do.
Okay. All right, so next topic, now that we can stop making me monologue.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Obligations.
Yeah. The next topic is feelings of nostalgia with ancient music without having heard it before. I
I
recently went to an Irish concert and heard music I'd never heard before, but seeded the feelings of nostalgia in me, even though I never heard of it.
Yeah, I never really noticed it, but I have a real obsession with ancient Latin chanting.
Well,
I
all right.
fucking have a massive obsession with it. Odds are, if I find stuff with Latin chanting, there will be a lot of that in my videos. Because I like Latin chanting. I think it, honestly, there's so many different kinds of Latin chanting that really establish kind of that feel of a greater purpose, or that you're the Messiah or something. It's weird.
Yeah, I have this CD here of the band myself and my grandparents went and saw. It's a band called Coal Cannon. They do exclusively Irish and Scottish music.
So, like with bagpipes and stuff?
No bagpipes.
No bagpipes? Huh.
They're specifically Irish. They do Irish interpretations of Scottish music and Irish music.
Yeah. Personally, I don't understand why people think like the accordion and the bagpipes sound that bad. They really don't sound
Come on,
that bad.
somebody played the Star Wars theme on bagpipes that shot fire into the sky on every note.
Yeah.
Come on, you can't tell me that's not badass.
That's awesome. I don't understand why people have established, oh, the accordion and the bagpipes sound so bad. They don't.
Because generally they have a very harsh sound, a very violent sound, something that kind of offends the ears if it's not prepared for it.
Yeah. I, for one, am not fazed or bothered by it, though.
All right. But a lot of this music is pretty interesting, I'd say. And in fact, there have been times where I listened to Celtic background music while doing homework.
Celtic background music, really?
Yeah, it helped me focus. It doesn't do it so much anymore because depression is a bitch. But yeah.
Like, I've noticed whenever I feel like when I played Trine and stuff like that, I really wanted, like, music that sounded medieval for the outro, just because I wanted that feel of Celtic nostalgia and medieval feel. And I felt like anything less just wouldn't have felt like a video or any kind of work with swords or magic or anything established in there. I just felt like it had to be medieval.
Right. Well, some of the music back then is the very first attempts at music, so it might even have been music that our ancestors heard while they were in the womb. So one might be able to debate that some of this music is in our blood.
Yeah, maybe the reason we feel nostalgia for it is because we feel some kind of spiritual alignment with our ancestors. Who knows?
Well, certainly feels like it. Okay,
it's not wrong. Feel
No,
a
it isn't.
spiritual alignment with your ancestors, because the thing that people constantly fail to realize is your ancestors were a lot like you.
Unless your ancestor is Hitler.
Yeah.
Come on,
Okay.
there's an exception to every rule.
Yeah, there's an exception to every rule, but honestly, we weren't there, so we don't know why certain people did what they did. We just guess and speculate.
Okay, so we have time for one more topic, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll record the last part of this. Okay, so this topic is pretty interesting. Why people tend to freak out over stupid shit. And as an example, I'll just do this. I'll just do this.
New character for Smash Brothers.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's a new character for Smash Brothers!
Nostalgia?
No. Why do people freak out like that? It's a fucking piece of software on a game you play all the time.
I'm honestly not sure.
I don't understand why the response isn't anything more than, cool, I'll put my money to that. Instead it's,
To
I gonna fuck me and that is so hard! Or something like that.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, when I was a kid growing up with the Legend of Spyro series, I freaking went nuts every single time I actually saw a commercial announcing the continuation of the Legend of Spyro series.
I once had that sort of reaction. It was on a Twitch stream. The guy stopped his entire fucking stream, paused his game just to address me and telling me to shut the fuck up. I felt pretty bad.
What, were you like there or something, or what?
I was there. I was still under the username of Digital Feared, so I was pretty young. But I was freaking out because I wanted so very much to be involved with a famous person. And they weren't even that famous. They stopped everything to tell me to shut the fuck up.
How do you feel about it now?
I'm glad he told me to shut up.
Because you were embarrassing yourself?
Yes, I was embarrassing myself and I was making other people pissed off and I was making him hate me. But
Yeah.
rather than just boot me, ban me, or ignore me, he told me to shut up and cool my jets. I'm trying to remember what the guy's name is. He did a voiceover for a comic that had to
Honestly,
do with
like,
Terraria.
When people do that, it's like, it's probably better that they actually do try and give you some sort of chance, even after directly establishing they're annoyed with how you're currently acting. I like the ones that just basically tell you, alright, shut up, calm your ass, rather than the ones
Calm your
like,
ass.
okay,
you're
I'm fucking
embarrassing
done
yourself.
with this. Or
Yeah.
like the ones that just immediately say, okay, I'm fucking done with this! Get out!
Get the fuck out, banned.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I wasn't saying anything racist or harmful. I was just being annoying.
I mean, but then you like look at it like, I always ask, what is the reason these people are famous? And it always comes back to the conclusion was because they inspire these people to be what they want to be. And as a result, some people want to view these individuals as nothing short but a messiah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Simply because they have aired in, like, it's sad. Because you have to realize a lot of people, like a lot of annoying fans, are prone to the belief that you are everything because you're something they're not. And they want to be you. Because that's something that they're not is something they strive to be. Honestly, it's a flattering notion, and at the same time, it bears a heavy weight and burden on you as the content creator. Because it says, alright, if I fail this person, I may... Like, some people have touched on this with their fans, and some people actually become heavily weighted by the fact that they have so many fans and they hate it. Simply because, like, you know, these people rely on me, they trust me, they count on me to inspire them. And if I fail, they're not inspired and they feel like less than a person. And, like, honestly, I don't think these people, these famous people, quote, are selfish. You could consider them famous, I guess, because of the amount of people that follow behind them, but they're just popular, honestly. They're, by popular belief, famous. But they're just normal people sitting at home in all reality. You take away the smoke and the screen and the mirrors and the millions of people following them on the internet, they're just a person sitting in front of their computer. But they've been given the burden of being an inspiration. And as a result, they must inspire. If they're overwhelmed by that burden, they always feel like they must inspire. If they don't, they're failing.
Has it ever been controversial, my decision on such a thing? That I will make whatever content I feel like, and if you don't like it, get the fuck out?
Honestly, it's kind of pushing aside that burden of forcing yourself to be an inspiration, and it's way more selfless than anything.
Really? Because I think it's kind of selfish to make content only you like.
But it's your work. The ultimate concept of these people being the inspiration is that they're supposed to inspire these people to be themselves, not be you. So ultimately, you have to tell these people you're going to make whatever you want to make. Because you have to be predominantly that assertive to show them, hey, I'm going to fucking be me, and you shouldn't be trying to be me, because I'm not you.
Then there's no way in hell that anyone else in the world is me.
It's true.
There's no one in the world who has had the exact experiences I've had, been in the exact places I have, and met the same people I have.
There's always that 1 degree turn of a diversity. It could seem similar, but each and every single person is different.
There can be some similarities. That's what statistics are for.
That's where friends come from, having things in common, but it doesn't necessarily make them the same person. All in all, we all have to accept the reality that every single person is a different person, and whilst they may have the same experiences, that's what forms the bond and creates the pact between people. But it's not what defines self.
All right. Well, then, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with the last 4 topics.
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, and welcome back to the SnuggleBear podcast. We're sorry for the delay. It's, well, not delay. It's an instant for you people.
Yeah, it's an instantaneous thing for us. It's been like 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, just about 5 minutes. It hasn't been too long.
It's instantaneous for you. It's been a few minutes. We take a break every so often to get a drink, refresh ourselves, get some air.
Well, yeah, it's just because we're recording for an hour at a time for a 3-hour episode just to make up for all the episodes we missed.
Hell yeah, son.
All right. So the next topic is about Valve.
Oh, God.
The reason as to why Valve seems to reluctant to make their own content.
I don't know.
I've
Honestly,
seen some theories about this, and the one
It's
that
all about the money.
Yes, that's the one that seems the most prevalent. There was a video called "If Valve Were Honest," and I might put a link in the description if I remember it.
I saw it. That guy actually looked quite a bit like Gabe Newell. It was funny.
Yes, the guy gave some very logical but satirical reasons as to why Valve hasn't been releasing games as of late. Such as, well, we want Half-Life fucking 3, and it's been 8 years-ish.
About, yeah.
Or Left 4 Dead 3, or Portal 3, or Ricochet 2.
Yeah.
Ricochet 2 might be a possibility. It's not a 3.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre how 3s take forever to come out with Valve.
Yeah,
There's never been 1 3 with Valve, actually. Never once.
Yeah, they went to Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 Episode 1. Half-Life 2 Episode 2. And then stopped.
Think about this. The establishments that a lot of these companies have made since the early 2000s, they've made tons of games. Valve has made very few games to when they began in the late 90s.
They've made a lot to make them a household name, though.
Yeah, with just a few games.
Hell, even Half-Life 2, which is getting a community visual redo, it's still fan-fucking-tastic. It is a wonderful game. I've played through it myself once or twice.
Valve is a household name with only a few games, but Valve is not only a household name, to many it is considered to be a legend because it's manufactured some quite wonderful games.
Yes, if you were to take a look at all of their profits that they get from hosting all these games that they sell, which is probably numbering in the thousands for games and billions for money they're getting, as compared to when they publish games and given their user base who may or may not buy their games, it's probably a safer bet that
I think
they're not releasing
Valve,
anything because they get more money just by holding up Steam.
Yeah, I think honestly, Valve spends a whole lot of time before they release another game. Is because Valve has an open, genuine rarity to its creation. And as a result, any game they create is pronounced as a treasure. Because,
and it's also, every time it's a fucking masterpiece because they're so awesome.
Yeah. Maybe the reason they take so long is because they put a lot of time and effort into it. I don't know.
That's the argument you can make about Duke Nukem Forever.
Time and effort? Titty alien.
They put more effort into that tits alien than the whole rest of the game.
Yeah, did you see the emphasis on those, like,
Bouncing tits.
Bouncing tits, and you had to shoot them.
3 tits.
Yeah, 3 tits.
That's awesome. Anyways. Next topic? Because we're on about bouncing tits.
Fucking Duke Nukem. They just ruined him in one game. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Every game before that is fucking amazing.
Well,
but moving on.
Duke Nukem pretty much had the same FPS perspective as Doom did. It was just different.
It was more satirical. It made fun of itself. It was pretty fun. It made fun of the other classics that came along with it.
Yeah, the thing about the old Duke Nukems is, to me, those were funny. And then, like, Duke Nukem Forever comes along, you got a chortle or two out, but it wasn't funny.
I found the game irritating, to say the least. I played up to a certain point, and then I was just like, this guy's supposed to be a badass, right? Why am I not doing badass things? I mean, this guy fucking passes out all the fucking time throughout the narrative. It's just
why am
really
I not
stupid.
Why am I not riding a helicopter through a plane while the helicopter is on fire and the plane is exploding, only to fall out into a nebulous void, blow up a spaceship, and then
drink a 20-pack of beers without feeling it?
Yeah, exactly.
This guy is supposed to be a badass who eats fucking bricks.
Yeah! Why the fuck didn't they make Duke Nukem like that in Duke Nukem Forever? That's what we wanted. We wanted him to be the most ginormous badass that was unbelievably stupid how badass he was.
Did you notice that all they did was reskin Borderlands?
Mm-hmm.
Borderlands, you can only have 2 guns. Borderlands, you have to follow a specific... Well, you don't have to follow a specific narrative, but the controls are a little clunky.
Actually,
3D Realms was lazy and stupid, to say the least.
Borderlands 2 was better, because in Borderlands 2...
I like Borderlands 2. I'm not bitching about Borderlands 2.
You could have 4 guns in Borderlands 2, and all of them were badass.
Yes, in Borderlands 1, 2 guns. They used the Borderlands 1 engine to get Duke Nukem Forever out faster, and that was after scrapping the original prototypes, I believe.
The only reason people enjoyed Borderlands was because technically it was still a good game, even though it had all those restrictions. Because, like, I don't actually know why Borderlands was so great. I guess it, like, took a great spin on psychopathic murderers. I don't know.
Ah. Alright. Next topic, because why the fuck not?
Borderlands 2 is one of my favorites because Tiny Tina.
Tiny Tina, yeah.
Tiny awesome. Tina! Fuck yes!
I can't remember any of her quotes, otherwise I would say them. Oh, here's a topic that's one of the last remaining 3, so fuck it. Why World of Warcraft 2015 sucks compared to World of Warcraft 2008, and a lesson about listening too closely to your fan base. So, you've played the old 2008 World of Warcraft with me.
Mm-hmm.
You can already probably vouch that it's better than the 2015 version, but the 2015 version might be a little more user-friendly.
Yep.
Though I don't think you've played the more recent renditions of the game, have you?
The more recent renditions of
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft?
Yeah, we're talking about World of Warcraft. Did you?
No, I've never played Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, or Warlords of Draenor.
Okay. Well, all three of those very slowly take the customization out of the game, take all of the fun quests out of the game, take all of the thinking out of it, and turn it into a useless grind.
Yeah.
You played Wrath of the Lich King with me a little bit ago, and did you notice how it didn't really hold your hand on very many things?
Oh, it was a bitch. If you didn't know where to go, you were fucking lost.
But once you figured it out, you were like, oh!
Oh!
And there's like a freaking phase montage. You got like fucking weed symbols and fucking Mountain Dew and monster logos.
Yeah, it made you feel
MLG
like a
flying
bad-
across the spectrum screen, vibrating.
Yeah, it made you feel kind of like a badass, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh!
We killed a guy.
Yeah!
We killed a zombie and put him in the grave next to his dead wife. And then they rested in peace. All because of us. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, motherfucker.
When the fuck do you do that in the new game?
I like Warframe because Warframe does make you feel like a badass.
But only if you pay the money for it.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can go on the grind, and the grind does have a point, because you can build, like...
It just takes so long, and it doesn't feel like you're getting more powerful as you go. It feels like you're fighting to survive until you can get that one mod or that one upgrade or get to that specific level. Otherwise, it doesn't do it quite right. It does it well enough to where it's still fun, at least for a while, but it gets draining just because of how much it makes you wait, how much it makes you grind for specific things you need, or how many things you have to just clear before you can start grinding for the things you want.
In all fairness, though, I will argue in Warframe's defense, the grind has been a very common concept that has been beaten to death, and they are trying. They are.
I agree. It was a lot worse in the beta.
And, like, it's why we won't give up on Warframe. It's why, like, my Warframe group and stuff like that, we won't give up. We'll keep waiting. We'll keep going through the updates. We'll keep seeing how this game grows and changes and evolves, and we'll grow and change and evolve with it. You should see how the game looked in the closed beta. And now how it looks is very different from how it originally looked.
I actually have a screenshot of the menu for the closed beta that I'm probably going to have to show you.
I have videos of the closed beta that I'm probably going to have to show you.
But yeah, you're probably going to shit your pants with how different it is compared to Ortis.
Oh, there was a lot of stuff different with the first Warframe. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, everything was.
And how
ridiculously
this game has changed has been a major milestone from where it began. And slowly, I see Warframe becoming a great game.
Yeah, it is very slowly taking shape of something pretty awesome. But back to World of Warcraft. There is something that changes so drastically between Wrath of the Lich King to Cataclysm that I had to show you Wrath of the Lich King before I ever talked about it. Wrath of the Lich King takes everything in the game and rams a giant dick through it.
Ew.
Everything looks a little nicer, but it's all completely fucked up, ripped apart. Nothing makes sense. Everything just looks like it was rehashed just for the sake of being rehashed. Some of it makes sense on the Eastern Kingdoms, at least, because that's where fucking Deathwing flew out of the maelstrom. But then it goes to Mists of Pandaria, which started as an April Fool's joke. And then Blizzard wondered why people didn't like it too much. Mists of Pandaria solidified World of Warcraft as a casual, I'm trying to think of the word for it, catering to casuals. It solidified that. 1 to 60, which for our game is probably going to take a while, but for 1 to 60 in Mists of Pandaria, you can get through it in 2 days. 2 days of grinding random quests, not giving a shit about the cinematics they put in the games just to have cinematics in the game. It's as if the old designers and the new designers had an issue. They stopped caring about the story, about empowering the player, about forming friendships, or anything, really. And they just tried to make something that got the money. Anything to get the money, anything to get the numbers. I have been on and off World of Warcraft from vanilla all the way up to Mists of Pandaria. My favorite time is still when it was in Wrath. When it was live on Wrath. That was my favorite of all time. Dungeons were wonderful. Raids were fucking amazing. That was the first time I ever considered raiding. It's very difficult to talk about it unless another person I'm talking about it with has the same experience. It's just...
I've played Wrath of the Lich King with you, and I think it's great.
But it gets better the farther we go.
I haven't even, touched Cataclysm or Mists of Pandaria.
It's better that you don't. It continues the story, sure, but it fucks everything up.
What about Warlords of Draenor? Does that fuck everything up, or...?
Yes, it even goes as far as to pull the multiverse theory out. Because the story for Warlords of Draenor is the bad guy from Mists of Pandaria who became the bad guy in Cataclysm, all because the best good guy from the first 3 variations of the game appointed a stupid fucker as the leader of the Horde, and then he became a power-crazed moron, turned my precious Orgrimmar into a metal fucking death trap, nuked a very large concentration of innocents, killed the guy responsible for that, then became corrupted by a demon, killed a lot of people, destroyed entire lands, went on trial for execution, and was spared at last second by a time-traveling dragon. Does that not sound weird and messed up to you?
You want me to answer that seriously?
Yes.
Alright. What the fuck are they smoking? Because I want some.
Yeah,
That sounds fucking like an acid trip.
It pretty much is.
At the same time, it's creative. It's interesting. I won't lie. That's very interesting for a lore. It's fucking more. I won't say it's more insane than Final Fantasy. I won't say it's more insane than Final Fantasy. All of Final Fantasy's plot lines and stories are fucking insane and in some senses confusing, but enjoyable because of how insane and confusing they are. Because it reminds you, hey, you're in a fantasy world.
Well then.
I mean, have you fucking tried to establish what the real story of Kingdom Hearts is? Like, you got fucking Ansem, and then Ansem's not Ansem, but Ansem is Ansem, but Ansem is also Xehanort, but Ansem's not Xehanort,
it's
but
all
Xehanort
about
is
Sora
Xehanort.
trying to find the girl of his dreams that has been taken away from him, and he's suddenly thrown into this massive conflict he never wanted anything to bother with to begin with. He was just on an island all by himself, sharing a starfruit with the one he loved, but then it was all taken away one day when the Heartless attacked.
Only the Keyblade, master of all the Keyblades, could stop them. But when the world needed it most, it fucking went into a Disney universe.
I see what you did there! So, the last 2 topics actually coincide with one another. We'll talk about one, and then the other is going to be something more personal to me and Will. You know what topic this is. It's open conformity and forced philosophy in relation to the first 2 episodes of Season 5 My Little Pony.
Spoilers alert! Spoilers alert! Click away now!
Holy fuck, this is a giant burrito.
It's the spoiler burrito.
The spoiler burrito. I'm actually eating a burrito.
I know. Okay. So, going into these episodes, I remember seeing the previews for them and just being absolutely fucking terrified of those ponies with the fucking equal sign cutie marks. It was
the thing that Hasbro did well was that you were right to be terrified.
absolutely. I was I was constantly afraid. I kept having to pause the episode over and over again because I was so scared. It was just one of my worst nightmares, or at least the worst nightmare that I can think of at this moment. The other one being alone forever and being forgotten, is to lose every aspect of my sense of self. Yeah. Everything that's me suddenly reduced to nothing, and then being forced to be a part of a collective.
You know what? It's kind of ironic, but that entire episode reminded me of Season 3 of The Walking Dead. I know that's far-fetched, but the basic concept of Season 3 was that there was this man named the Governor that ran this, what was viewed as this perfect utopia against the zombie apocalypse. What was really happening was the Governor was going out, killing innocent people, and taking their things to build the stock of his great empire, while at the same time forcing his own people to be shut within the walls and never let out.
Nobody's allowed to leave.
Yeah. The Governor was a brilliant villain because he was tactical, he was cunning, and he knew how to toy with Rick's mind. Rick was one of the main characters.
But the one thing that completely changed his character was when his zombie daughter was killed.
Mm-hmm.
You could see the terror in his goddamn eyes as the confused swordswoman decapitated the bitch.
The thing I enjoyed about this episode, though, is it actually showed that transformation that Starlight Glimmer went through.
I really don't like Starlight Glimmer. She's a fucking cultist.
She was evil. She was evil, deceitful. She was an insane cultist the entire time. But the thing I enjoyed was that nearing the end, when she was exposed, her true colors were shown, and it was exposed of how psychopathic she actually was, sociopathic and unfeeling she was.
My question is, what was she doing with the cutie marks?
Just, I don't know. Was she trying to take their talent? Was there a purpose for taking it?
Oh, I know. She was trying to forge a society where she was the center of everything, where her ideals were what everyone followed, where she was the leader, where no one questioned her.
You might be right about that, because you would notice that the village of the equals was basically established as a totalitarianism. No one dared question Starlight because they believed she was some great messiah that had all the answers.
Because she got a piece of wood and then bent a spell through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was... I'm sorry, just the whole part of it. She was even using mental indoctrination to enforce her ideals on them.
Which is exactly what a totalitarian government does. The only thing that they subtracted because it was a children's show was abuse, execution, beatings, those kinds of things. But it still showed forced conformity and just like the basic concept of what a totalitarianism is.
But it was clear that none of them were actually under the spell. It was all controlled by their own beliefs. And the equality cutie mark, it didn't change who they were. It just removed their talents.
Mm-hmm.
Which it made you
something
equal.
Was weird was each time they tried to think about their talents, the cutie mark would go glow black and suddenly distort their way of thinking.
That's because it's essentially a parasite, forcing them to be equal. And whenever they try to be different, it tries to correct it. It's a horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if you were to put a shock collar on 200 people, and every time they said the word but, they would get zapped.
Something that surprises me, though, is something that's interesting. Starlight Glimmer is probably one of the very first MLP villains we will see much, much more of.
She'll probably attack again in exactly the same way.
She escaped, and she didn't learn anything. So you obviously know, for a change, there was a villain they couldn't capture, they couldn't defeat. So it's on the loose to spread whatever kind of chaos it wants, because it still has the ability to deceive anything outside that village.
Absolutely. And all she had to do was put a little makeup on her cutie mark to hide it.
Yeah. And literally, the only thing that led to them discovering what was really going on was her own error.
Well, it was she accidentally spilled water on herself and while Fluttershy was watching, and then Fluttershy got the idea and tried to spill water on her. A little bit got on there, and then the fuckers that were around her who were still under her command, they wiped it off and snapped out of it. It was as if they were waking up from this weird coma, just the indoctrination stopped working.
Well, the reason the indoctrination was working was because they trusted Starlight, because...
They believed that in order for friendship to go in, everyone had to be equal. They couldn't argue. They couldn't be better than one another.
And they felt that Starlight was their friend.
At least for a while. And it's kind of interesting how trusting one person can fuck you up entirely. And even near the end, I was still terrified of the idea. It's just so scary.
One evil creates another. You have people that are evil because they're paranoid. And where does that paranoia come from? People like Starlight. But the thing is, what if Starlight wanted to be the center of attention because she didn't trust anyone else? That means the paranoia she donned that individuals have on her, it was always within her. And she had a paranoia towards others in herself.
And
it's something I enjoy because, honestly, Starlight Glimmer, through and through, made me think more and more about the Governor, an individual whose wit could outmatch Twilight's if Twilight let it happen. An individual who could toy with the thoughts and emotions of any protagonist and start to distort their way of thinking, destroy whole societies just with words. An interesting villain that was actually solid and not some kind of demon or creature. Starlight Glimmer was just a normal pony doing all this.
And that's what makes it scary, that even in such a world where everything that these characters know is forged by kindness and love and harmony, there can be members of even their race who bend completely the opposite direction. And I think that Glimmer was mainly trying to force this whole cult idea onto everybody because she wanted to be better than everyone else. Kind of like Trixie.
But why? Is the question. That's what I want to know. I think
because psychologically it makes her feel better.
But what made her feel bad in the first place?
Not being better than somebody else.
But what made her despise that notion?
Probably someone or a group of someones kept showing that, or showing her up, kept showing that she was bad, kept kind of like Rainbow Dash's bullies, Rainbow Crash.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I'm going to be interested in seeing. Are we actually going to see what caused this villain to develop into the villain they are?
It's a very interesting character, and I think this scares me enough that I'm going to have to write about it at some point.
Yeah, it's insane.
And because of the theme that my stories usually take place, it's probably going to be even worse, and I'm going to feel bad about it.
And you know, like, some people were even saying, like, when they saw the premiere of this, oh, this is going to be so stupid. This
is thought-provoking and horrifying.
Yeah, it's exactly what we wanted it to be. That kid's show that actually works for adults, too.
But I think children watching this won't even realize what's happening. It's horrible.
Children will look at it and think Starlight's just this big meanie that's trying to be better than everybody else, but it's worse than that.
Well, she is trying to be better than everyone else. She's forcing herself to the top.
Yeah, but it's worse than that because children have never been exposed to the ways of totalitarianism. They haven't grown up in those kind of ideals, and neither have we. We can imagine the horror, but there are some people in this world that if they watch that would know the exact horror of what that is.
There are some people who would have PTSD seeing this shit.
Mm-hmm.
I could just imagine hearing that intercom over and over again. That would drive me crazy. I wouldn't obey it, but I would get annoyed, and I don't know.
I think the idea was that they all conformed because of the common philosophy that if you tell somebody something over and 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 over again,
eventually they'll believe it.
Right.
And that is a true psychological technique.
And the thing that was going to happen, if Twilight didn't come up with a plan, they were going to keep going into that room forever and ever and ever.
Until they completely broke with the fear of going back in there.
Exactly. And they had no power to stop her because she took away their talents. She had all the power as long as the people were on her side.
And as long as she kept the cutie marks away from them.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually fairly interesting that once you have that equal mark, that you're just this slow, very weak, very fragile thing. It's as if you're stuck as a child and everyone else is children with you, and you have to listen to Big Mama Sparkle, or whatever her name is. Glimmer. Big Mama Glimmer.
Yep. Because she's the only one that has any strength.
Well, she's the only one who kept her talent because the spell is hers.
But the ultimate question I have, I saw her cutie mark, but what does her cutie mark mean?
It's just magic. Her talent is magic, just like Trixie and Twilight.
I wonder if that means Glimmer actually has a potential in magic yet untapped that could rival Twilight.
No, it doesn't look like it. She's not an alicorn. Unfortunately, as the lore for that show goes, alicorns are the most powerful. A unicorn in no way can match the magical might of an alicorn.
But odds are, in order to make Glimmer a major villain in this series, there's going to be something to level that out. Some ability that Glimmer has, and I think it's going to be her ability to manipulate.
Maybe she manipulates Trixie into helping her.
Maybe. And if Trixie's
Together, those
manipulated...
two could actually cause some damage.
Exactly.
Trixie being showboaty and having a knowledge of magical artifacts and where to get them, i.e. the alicorn amulet.
Tyrek started out weak, and Discord made him strong because Tyrek was able to deceive Discord.
And
If
Discord
Tyrek hadn't
helped
been
him
able-
feed on more and more and more and more until it eventually became this unstoppable force that Twilight and friends had to take out. But it is kind of horrifying that when that Cerberus escaped all that time ago, something deep, dark, and horrible escaped without anybody knowing, slowly regaining power from the shadows until it eventually resurfaced.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that horrifying?
I know, right?
All right, so let's go on to the last topic, which coincides with this, and that is, it's for both of us, and it's what would happen if Sharpwing or Mimic were in this situation instead of the main six. What would happen? How would they deal with the situation with having absolutely no previous knowledge of the place?
Sharpwing is an intellectual individual who can play in a sense of... Basically, the difference Sharpwing and I have, Sharpwing can be a frequent liar if he needs to be.
It doesn't matter. Lying in this situation is not something you would have to be good at. It's being able to see through a manipulator, which is very difficult. And as the main six did, as smart as they are, they fell for it. At least somewhat.
Sharpwing would always be one to fall privy to a manipulation, but the upside to him is because of his intellect, he's always cautious. So if he was betrayed, he'd always have a plan.
It's very likely that, just like in the show, Sharpling would probably be cornered and have his cutie mark taken away and his wings, because they make him different.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sharpling's wings are something that were built.
I know,
Not even
which is why they'd be
biological.
taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're prosthetics. They're not something he's meant to have. Or at least, not something everyone has. It would make him stand out, so they'd be taken away. So what would he do without those? Or without his strength, or his general intellect?
The upside, without Sharpwing's intellect, he'd have basic intellect.
Right.
But in a sense, there's still a lot you can do with basic intellect.
Yes. There is quite a bit you can do with basic intellect. There's quite a bit you can do with minimal strength, minimal speed, minimal a lot of things.
As long as Sharpwing keeps believing he's trying to do the right thing, he can carry his intellect to surpass an ideal.
Though that kitty mark might inhibit that.
But I'm going to be honest. I can't argue that Sharpwing would win. Sharpwing's all about fighting and brute strength.
But then that's taken away from him, and what can he do?
Sharpwing doesn't like to kill, but he does when he has to.
But where in this would he have the option or the ability?
He wouldn't have that option or that ability because there's too many, and he doesn't have the ability to reason or think out of a situation.
It's likely that he would have to turn the manipulation on its heels and pretend, just like Fluttershy did, after a long time, to fall under the spell.
Exactly.
Now it's my turn. If Mimic were in that situation... Well, for one, she's a changeling, so if she's disguised as something and they try to take her cutie mark away, I don't actually think it would work. If only because she's been...
Her talent's not disguising herself as something, though. Her talent is more...
Her talent is acting.
Oh,
But
shit. That means she'd be terrible at pretending to be other people.
what do you mean? Oh, yes, she
would
wouldn't
look
be able
like
to
them, but
pretend
she'd
as
be-
anyone else. She'd probably...
She would look like them, exactly, but she'd be terrible at pretending to be them. And if she was
But-
backed into a corner...
Let me explain a bit. She's a converted changeling, which means her talent is nothing. Her talent is useless. Her cutie mark is just a reminder.
So it kind of seems like Sharpwing's basic intellect plan and Mimic's abilities would tie into one another to their success.
The most that Mimic could do is fake it. Fake that
And
she's being converted. Fake that she's going through the
Yeah.
conversion as another pony.
And Sharpwing, all he would have to do is resist the confirmation while Mimic went through with his plan.
Yes, absolutely. If the two of them were there,
Because if Mimic
could
got
get it
out,
going.
if Mimic got out, she'd have the ability to hide amongst them and learn what she needs to in order to help Sharpwing concoct
Learn where the
plan.
vault is, learn
Yeah.
where Glimmer is keeping the cutie marks, and then break out the cutie marks. And
Ultimately, I
what
think Sharpwing and Mimic would win out, but it would take them longer than it did the main six.
it would probably take weeks, whereas the main six
Yeah.
took a day. Well, it wasn't a day.
And
I
in
think it's
weeks'
in probably
time,
3 days.
and in weeks' time, we don't know if Sharpwing's mentality would be shattered or not.
Well, I think he's strong enough that he'd be able to survive it, but that cutie mark, it's hard to know. It makes you like everyone else. But I guess because the spell may or may not actually be meant for a changeling, Mimic would be immune to it and probably be forced to watch Will slowly slip into madness while she's unaffected.
Yeah. If Sharpwing slips into madness, then he starts to crack. He hallucinates and things like that. So
Well, for this,
his
you're not even gonna
confirmation,
hallucinate.
his confirmation would probably basically him conforming to their ways would be far more brutal than it would have been for the main six, because he'd have to completely eradicate the self he's built because he doesn't remember who he was before breaking out of the prison. And having all of that torn down in the foundation, he's basically a nothing. And he has to start beginning to accept that he's a nothing that is only a something when he's conformed to them.
But you get to keep your memories, as evidenced by the ponies who were obviously there for a while, but still had their own free will. And we're still very impressed with cutie
Ultimately-
marks, very well able to resist the indoctrination.
Ultimately, I think Sharpwing would win out because fully he's developed self from what he knows now, not from the memories he's forgotten.
Right.
So in that sense, his ability of establishing self would have been more recent and difficult to terminate. As a result of Sharpwing's inability to establish who he was before he met all of the individuals surrounding him, he'd probably win out.
So yes, if Mimic and Mimic and Sharpwing were in this, based on what we've built
he'd
for
win
them,
out.
they'd be able to win out.
He'd win out, but he probably would have tore out half of his mane. He'd be in a cold sweat, and his eyes would be dilated. He'd feel like he'd completely lost his mind.
And he'd have that shit-eating grin on his face until the very end.
Yeah.
When things are exposed, people get their kitty marks back, people start
That
questioning it.
shit-eating grin.
Well, that's what that is, a big fat grin.
Oh god, that fucking smile.
That is creepy. That is burned into my corneas.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, but if we were to consider the situation, if only Mimic were placed into this situation, it's very likely that she would be exposed as a changeling and would freak everybody out.
Like, honestly, when I saw those smiles, it fucking looked like a smile you would use to hide the fact that you were about to shit yourself after weeks of constipation.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Let me finish my thoughts.
I'm sorry.
So, yes, if Mimic, our goofy little convert changeling butt, if she were in this situation, she'd probably be exposed as a changeling because the spell wouldn't work, and she wouldn't know that it's supposed to work. So something would be off. But what would they do to chase out a changeling? They're all physically weak. And what would happen from there? It's probably Mimic would go, okay, what are you doing? It's hard to know. There's just no chemistry for her being there by herself. It's just too easy. She's not a pony anymore.
Yeah.
All she has to do is exist, and the problem stops.
Yeah.
It's goofy as hell. Anyways, I'm all out of topics.
Huh. Well, alright.
Well, alright, we ran out of topics and we had 20 minutes left. Should we finish up here?
Booty, 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 booty,
Booty, booty, booty, booty, booty,
booty, booty, booty, booty. There we go.
Speaking of booty, I want to talk about Mimic's booty because it's important. If you were to stare at her ass directly and make it so that it was 100% realistic to real life, it would look like as if there was something there, but there's only the faint outline. She doesn't even have an anus. So if you were to hear a fart sound in a room and she happens to be there with you, she'd say, "Don't look at me. I don't have an anus."
Yeah.
It'd be pretty easy to tell who farted. Not
Yeah,
her.
especially if there were only two people in the room.
And her.
And her.
Okay, who farted? Don't look at me. I don't have an anus. I go, what? Sorry, I think that would be kind of interesting to hear.
She eats love. She has no need for an anus.
Well, she doesn't have any need to process anything because there's nothing physical that she's absorbing.
She's
But
like a
yet-
sponge that absorbs energy, so I guess it'd be kind of like a flower.
Kind of. Except a flower still eats. Well, it drinks water and eats sugars.
Yeah, but flowers don't poop.
True, they don't. They just grow and then they die. But we don't know if changelings can die or not. We don't even know if ponies can die. Hell, we have Granny Smith and she's just old.
Changelings, if they feed off of love, the only thing that could probably kill them is nothing but hate.
No, you could starve them to death.
Yeah,
Or you
exactly.
could stab them. That's a good way to kill them because all their organs are kind of compacted inside their shriveled bodies.
And ultimately, like, we don't know what changelings are made up of, so how do we know if cutting them open will even kill them?
Well, they're bugs, so it's giant chitinous materials.
Yeah.
Chitin is a material that's it's about as strong as steel, but it's flexible, and it's the only thing that, because it's flexible, it's the only reason that Mimic has any facial features whatsoever. Facial expressions. Oh, and by the way, speaking of which, she doesn't have a vagina either, unless she wants to.
Yeah, unless she wants to.
She's a changeling.
Hooray.
She can twist her body,
I know.
but her physical
I
form does
know.
not have a vagina.
I know.
I think probably the easiest way to root her out if you can't figure out who she is to make her eat something. Because she can't process it. She probably vomited up.
And then it'd be like green sludge or something, I don't know.
Not necessarily. Well, bile, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see very many ways to bring her out if she's really determined to uphold her role.
Yeah, I guess if you kind of wanted to expose her, you just have to ask her to eat something, and she'd either refuse, or if she were backed into a corner, she'd eat it and
Well,
try
it's
not
still
to.
normal to say, no, it's okay, I'm not hungry. But,
yeah.
but if you are to insist because there is a changeling around, then she's going to take you out. Well, at least if we're following the canon for Night Castle,
Which you still have to do.
Yeah, if it were Stavros or something, he's far more powerful than he appears. So if, like, it's kind of sad, but if she tried to take Stavros out, she probably would not succeed.
Okay.
Because the only one that can take Stavros down is Sharpwing.
And she's probably very well aware of it.
Yeah.
And
So
likely in
we're
that
backed
situation,
into a
she
corner.
was faced directly with Stavros, and she can't fool him. She's going to have to escape.
Or fight until she dies.
Well, she might be built pretty well, and with that chitin, she's pretty awesome. But bullets kind of go through steel pretty damn well.
Yeah, if she were shot, it'd probably hurt like hell.
Judging by the technology level of Stavros and his minions, she'd probably have to solely rely on stealth.
Stavros makes super soldiers. They could probably break Mimic in half.
Yeah, the only thing she has is stealth.
Yeah. Stealth and strength for those that aren't superhuman, which would be like the police.
Oh yeah, she does have some level of strength, maybe a little bit
Except
more
Katie.
than a normal pony.
Katie could technically be counted as superhuman because she's an expertise in her ground.
Ah,
She's
okay.
She's an excellent detector of lies. She's an investigator.
Obviously not good enough. Because
She's quite
Mimic is
capable
full
of holding. She's quite capable of holding her own because Katie can beat Sharpwing's ass
Cool, but we do know that
with
Mimic can
no
fool her.
powers. With no powers, and yes, Mimic can fool Katie, but Mimic would have to get the jump on Katie in order to defeat Katie.
Exactly. That's the only thing she can actually do to defeat anybody. She might be a little stronger than a normal pony, but it's not by much.
I'd actually just, like, imagine she'd be fighting Mimic and she'd just be like, you know, I'm actually glad you came. These interrogations get so boring.
Oh, God. Oh, wait, is that
Katie-
Mimic talking or Katie?
Katie.
Didn't we talk about Mimic being the one doing the interrogations for Sharpwing?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think, what does she do exactly? She
embodies their worst nightmares until they talk.
Right, so she's a psychological interrogator.
Yeah, not physical. Physical would be cruel of her.
I don't think it's just nightmares, though. To go into mental interrogation, you'd have to be more with just nightmares. You'd also have to establish a sense of, like... Basically, you'd have to pull off what they did in 1984. Basically, what happened is, like, you establish these people, they could trust you, and they developed a trust you. Kind of a Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, I know.
Because
how
they started to
technologically
realize, like,
how technologically advanced is this universe that they're in? Do they have the internet? Or
they do have the
databases?
internet. They do have the internet and databases.
Well, then that's all you need. Because everybody, at least everybody except for Mimic, because Mimic's supposed to be dead, technically. You know, convert.
Yeah.
So, other than her, everyone has a record. And from that record, you can judge everyone's fears, their likes, their dislikes, everywhere they go, practically.
What if they had, like, a fear of fire, though?
Well,
Does that mean Sharpwing would have to set the room on fire?
Mimic can change herself. Well, hey, her changing forms is like a green fire.
Oh, right.
All she has to do is infinitely change forms over and over again, right in front of them, and scare the shit out of them till they start talking. Or make herself look like a skeleton that's on fire. There's a lot she could do. Anything visual that is of similar size she can do.
For some, it has to do with, like, interrogation. Mental interrogation has to do with more than just fear.
I know it has to do with more than just fear. It's betraying trust. Perhaps
Like in
dangling their loved ones in front of them
in
and impersonating those they love.
In 1984, they went through several different methods of pushing Winston to a conformity of their ideals, which was the protagonist. They put him in a room with a bunch of people and repeatedly beat him each time he refused to conform. Then they put him in a room with a bunch of interrogationists that accused him of all these things they didn't do, and if he refused to conform to that, they would constantly insult him and belittle him and slap him slightly.
and just like start to make him feel like his mentality was worthless.
Oh.
Then they would make him feel like he was loved, make him feel like he was cared about, make him feel like they only do this because Big Brother loves him.
Oh,
And-
that's interesting.
And basically it developed in the sense Winston lost his mind. He both hated and loved Big Brother, until eventually there was nothing but love for Big Brother, because he felt that everything Big Brother was doing, all the evil, trying to force him to conform, trying to get him to shut the fuck up about his beliefs in not liking the party, was false. Trying to make him believe that he was mentally ill.
Okay. Well,
That's
I wouldn't
kind of
say
how
that Mimic would be able
far-
to go that far. She doesn't really have an education, but what she could do is mess with fear. Fear is probably her biggest weapon in that. She has fangs. She can make someone terrified that something is sucking their blood, and she can even do that if need be.
Mimic's
Or-
ability would have to be fear, but through Sharpwing's methods of interrogation, he'd probably be more intricate with it to get as much information as he wanted. So he would develop
when you scare someone
fear.
enough, you can get
He
them
would-
to tell you anything
Yeah.
you want them to.
Not only
What
that,
do to stop the horror?
but he has to be capable of manipulating the individuals he gains information from.
Perhaps
Think about this.
buddying them.
Yeah, buddying them, exactly. Trust. Make them
Oh,
feel
I
like...
get it. Sharpwing is good cop, and Mimic is really, really bad cop.
Exactly. Mimic probably beats them, throws them across the wall,
Scares
transforms
them,
into their
turns
worst
into their
nightmare.
loved ones, their worst nightmares, even children bleeding from the eyes.
Hell, she probably even threatened to convert them.
She could.
Yeah.
And I think it would go exactly like this. All I have to do is kiss you once, and you're mine forever.
Yeah.
That's kind of a scary thing that she could throw around.
Yeah.
And plus, the whole conversion process, there's a very high chance that you're just going to die outright. And a very
Yeah.
painful death as your own body tears itself apart.
And it could basically be like, Sharpwing could toy with them. He can just be like, hey, I can keep you away from her. You just have to tell me what I want to know. And we'll all be fine.
Unless you want to be a changeling like me.
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm the only one that can protect you. Why not trust me?
And I'm the one who can kill you.
Pretty much. I like the idea.
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea. I like expanding on it.
Mm.
All right, we're finally out of time.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for tuning in. This has been a really, really, really long episode of the SnuggleBear podcast. I hope you all watched to the end. And I hope you could put up with the last 30 minutes of us talking about stuff you probably don't even know anything about.
It's all about psychology.
Psychology is fun.
Shut up, buddy.
Yeah.
Moving on. And we'll all see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.